Tucker Carlson is back. He put up a video on Twitter saying that he'll be launching a new show on Twitter. And the news comes after it was reported that Tucker Carlson met with Elon Musk. Now, the interpretation from most people was that they came to some kind of accord. But Elon Musk came out and said there's no deal. Tucker is just going to do a show on Twitter. But we will see. It feels like what they're really saying is they have not signed anything. And this could be for legal reasons due to Tucker's current contract with Fox News. But it does seem like Tucker and Elon have a plan of sorts. So this is big, interesting stuff. But there's more news on the Tucker front. Apparently, it's being reported, he was fired as part of the Dominion settlement, as if to imply that Dominion was like, OK, we'll settle, but you got to fire Tucker Carlson, which is very, very strange, to say the least. So we'll talk about that, plus a whole bunch of other stories, my friends. Before we get started, head over to castbrew.com to pick up your Cast Brew coffee. I don't have the bag with me today because we were actually drinking it this morning, but you can pick up one of 4 special blends: Rise with Roberto Jr., Appalachian Nights, and then we have a Colombian and a French roast. Supporting the show, if you buy from Cast Brew, you're supporting the show because we're sponsoring ourselves. We're trying to get away from being beholden to corporate sponsors as it pertains to generating revenue. So head over to castbrew.com if you want to pick up some good coffee. My favorite is Rise with Roberto Jr., to be completely honest. It's a light roast, but if you like dark roast, we got Appalachian Nights. And it's going to be part of our coffee shops that we're going to be opening up, hopefully across the country very soon. But either way, the first one is already underway. We are already building it out, plus our social club. So again, castbrew.com. Don't forget to head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member, and you'll get access to exclusive members only uncensored shows on the front page of timcast.com Monday through Thursday at about 10 p.m. Eastern. We will have one of those shows for you tonight. And as a member, you can join our Discord server, hang out with like-minded individuals, and actually submit questions to our show and even call into our show for the members only uncensored. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Michael Heise.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
Who are you, sir?
Well, as you said, Michael Heise. I am the founder and chair of the Libertarian Party Mises Caucus. We're a group of rabble-rousers, libertarians, and then kind of the Ron Paul, Dave Smith, Tom Woods tradition. And, after a long fight, we took over the Libertarian Party last year to make it more based. Proud to say that we might be the only institution in the entire country that de-wokeified, where the Libertarian Party kind of went woke, and a lot of people were disappointed with that. Well, we came in here to reverse course, and we made that happen last year, and now we're launching all of our kind of plans and our political strategies, and anybody who's looked at the Libertarian Party can tell that something serious has changed with the messaging. Looking
forward to that presidential announcement coming soon, but
I think we all are.
We'll see what happens. We also have Ben Stewart hanging out.
That's right. Ben Stewart, documentary filmmaker. You can go to benjosephstewart.com. I usually talk about things like consciousness and psychedelics, but I think I skipped timelines, and now I'm talking about the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, we've got that. It's our second documentary. Well, we have 2 documentaries. We have Infringed, and then we have yours on the Federal Reserve, both of which will be coming out soon. So excited for that. Thanks for hanging out, Ben.
Yeah, man.
Seamus is here.
My name is Seamus. I have a YouTube channel called Freedom Tunes where we release an animated cartoon twice a week. We just released one today that I think you guys will really, really enjoy. The fans seem to be loving it. If you all want to go check that out. And I also have a podcast on Rumble, which is called Shamer. We released an episode of that today as well.
Right on.
Hello, everybody. I'm Phil Labonte, lead singer of All That Remains, anti-communist and counter-revolutionary. And
I am Serge.com. I'm ready to go when you guys are.
Let's get it. Here's the first big news from Timcast.com. We're back! Tucker Carlson to stream new show through Twitter, saying the news you consume is a lie. You are being manipulated. You know what? How about we just play the actual clip from Tucker himself? Here we go.
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. You often hear people say the news is full of lies, but most of the time that's not exactly right. Much of what you see on television or read the New York Times is in fact true in the literal sense. It could pass one of the media's own fact checks. Lawyers would be willing to sign off on it. In fact, they may have. But that doesn't make it true. It's not true. At the most basic level, the news you consume is a lie of the stealthiest and most insidious kind. Facts have been withheld on purpose, along with proportion and perspective. You are being manipulated. How does that work? Let's see. If I tell you that a man has been unjustly arrested for armed robbery, that is not, strictly speaking, a lie. He may have been framed. At this point, there's been no trial, so no one can really say. But if I don't mention the fact that the same man has been arrested for the same crime 6 times before, am I really informing you? No, I'm not. I'm misleading you. And that's what the news media are doing in every story that matters, every day of the week, every week of the year. What's it like to work in a system like that? After more than 30 years in the middle of it, we could tell you stories. The best you can hope for in the news business at this point is the freedom to tell the fullest truth that you can. But there are always limits. And you know that if you bump up against those limits often enough, you will be fired for it. That's not a guess, it's guaranteed. Every person who works in English language media understands that. The rule of what you can't say defines everything. It's filthy, really, and it's utterly corrupting. You can't have a free society if people aren't allowed to say what they think is true. Speech is the fundamental prerequisite for democracy. That's why it's enshrined in the first of our constitutional amendments. Amazingly, as of tonight, there aren't many platforms left that allow free speech. The last big one remaining in the world, the only one, is Twitter, where we are now. Twitter has long served as the place where our national conversation incubates and develops. Twitter is not a partisan site. Everybody's allowed here, and we think that's a good thing. And yet, for the most part, the news that you see analyzed on Twitter comes from media organizations that are themselves thinly disguised propaganda outlets. You see it on cable news, you talk about it on Twitter. The result may feel like a debate, but actually the gatekeepers are still in charge. We think that's a bad system. We know exactly how it works, and we're sick of it. Starting soon, we'll be bringing a new version of the show we've been doing for the last 6.5 years to Twitter. We'll be bringing some other things too, which we'll tell you about. But for now, we're just grateful to be here. Free speech is the main right that you have. Without it, you have no others. See you soon.
So Elon Musk responded to all the news saying, on this platform, unlike the one-way street of broadcast, people are able to interact, critique, and refute whatever is said. And of course, anything misleading will get community notes. I also want to be clear that we have not signed a deal of any kind whatsoever. Tucker is subject to the same rules and rewards of all content creators. Rewards mean subscriptions and advertising revenue share coming soon, which is a function of how many people subscribe and the advertising views associated with content. Up that many others, particularly from the left, also choose to be the content creators on this platform. Now, I see what Elon's got going on here. We have not signed a deal of any kind whatsoever. That does not mean they did not shake hands and come to an agreement, because we had this story from Forbes, Elon Musk talking with Tucker Carlson about working together. I don't believe that Tucker Carlson would walk away from launching his own network and making $100 million plus per year on subscriptions unless there was some kind of deal in place, be it verbal, not a contractual agreement.
I imagine that there is probably some kind of deal in that, as they said, there's going to be the subscriptions and stuff like that. And I imagine that Elon essentially went to Tucker and said, look, the money's there, blah, blah, blah. We'll make sure that you get the reach. You have this many, et cetera. This is how it'll work with the way that we're thinking. And so I can assure you that, give you my word that this will be. And it may be just a handshake deal, like you said. But it doesn't see, I don't see, I don't think that he'll have a problem coming up with money. He's the
I just think that there's no reason for anyone to do a show on Twitter unless Elon makes a guarantee. YouTube subsidizes content.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think that there's there's more people that are like you, that the money isn't, the issue. Like Tucker doesn't, I was talking about this with Michael downstairs. The money, like Tucker's already rich. He's already going to make, never going to have to worry about money in his life. So I just feel like he's looking for reach and for probably security. And I think that the money is a secondary thing. I mean, it's not like you care about it,
I agree, but I mean, money is secondary. You want to do something good. You want to say what you have to say, and you want people to see it. But money is like the oil for the machine.
Fair.
So I don't think Tucker's going to want to look at his net worth, his bank account, his assets, and be like, let's liquidate this property so that I can do a show. He's probably going to be like, how can I fund a show? How can I make money? That being said, it may be that Elon simply went to Tucker and said, you do your show on Twitter. We absorb all of the costs of broadcast, hosting, server, and everything. And so Tucker might be thinking about it like, okay, we'll do subscriptions. We'll make money on Twitter that way. Elon says they only take 10%. So what am I really losing? And they're gonna cover all the hosting costs. Done.
I just imagine that there's plenty of money to be made and plenty of avenues for him to make money, and that the essentially the teaming up of the two kind of biggest free speech names going really puts pressure on all of the other media. Like this is going to be the most pressure that all of the other media outlets have probably ever experienced.
It could be paradigm shifting. I mean, one, we don't know what the restrictions that Tucker has on him that would maybe prevent him from discussing the money and revenues from this sort of content. But look at what happened with Musk himself. He put a portion of his fortune up to try to do something good with Twitter because he saw, what was going on with the collusion and the lack of free speech on Twitter. So if we're lucky, we're going to get something similar with Tucker himself where, maybe what Elon is doing with Twitter, they are now trying to do to YouTube and kind of create a new paradigm in the content creator hub.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is more about the conversation that the discourse that's going on, the national discourse, than it is about him being concerned about monetary, how much money he's going to make. Because again, it's already rich, and these guys are the dudes that are out there carrying the torch for actual liberalism in an age when you've got so many progressives that are really authoritarian and really, really strongly looking to, censor speech and say this is outside of the realm of acceptable conversation.
The opportunity right now is for anybody who wants to launch a show needs to launch it on Twitter right now.
100%.
Because what's going to happen is within the next year, Elon is going to be looking at propping up whatever shows and content they have. And what Elon's not going to want to do is start trying to poach outside content because it's very difficult. I would love to have Timcast IRL live every day on Twitter. I've got 1.6 million followers. It would be fantastic. I think we get tremendous reach. It's just difficult to do. And I don't know what the upside is other than just general reach. It's an investment, I understand, but it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. If we invested in multi-streaming, did the show on Twitter, did a live stream or whatever because they have that capability, I don't know what we would get out of it. So Elon, let's say he comes to us and he's like, we want you on Twitter. I'd be like, okay, here's what we need to cover the costs of that, hiring somebody to do it, et cetera, et cetera. If somebody just launches a show on Twitter right now, when Elon is looking for content to put in the suggested feed, it will be you. So that's how it always works. When YouTube first started, there were people who made no money and just did it. And then when YouTube started expanding, they promoted those people. Those people became rich and famous. So I don't know, man. Tucker doesn't need it. I'm wondering what the conversation was. Let me pull up what Forbes had to say. Forbes said that Elon Musk has been talking with former Fox News host Tucker Carlson about possibly working together, according to a new report from Axios. The news comes after Carlson was abruptly pulled off the air by Fox, blah, blah, blah. They said that Axios had learned that Carlson and Elon Musk had a conversation about working together, but didn't discuss specifics. I don't know. I don't know where we go.
I think it's about
here.
who Tucker is as well. It's a big signpost, who Tucker is, and him coming here. It's definitely him, his face, and a new turning point for Twitter. So that's pretty cool convergence right there.
But is this going to drive the left off of Twitter into places like Blue Sky or Mastodon or something? Because they're already attacking Twitter for, you're going to host Tucker. They're already attacking Twitter saying you're going to host Tucker Carlson.
It is interesting. He even says that. I hope that many others, particularly on the left, will make some content.
It's just, look, man, Elon's late to the party. I'm glad he's at the party, but he's late to the party. He posts that meme of, the left moving further and further left, and then makes a moderate right wing. And it's like, bro, that was 10 years ago. That happened 10 years ago, and you got to the party like 2 years ago.
We're all so early though, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
Like people that are plugged in are extremely early, and normies are just catching wind of this. And I think that the whole COVID thing is, I mean, I don't want to. I'm a little hesitant to say this, but actually I'll say it like this: one of the benefits, one of the silver linings of COVID was it woke people up to the control of the narrative from the left and from the government, and it made people realize that the government was really interested in censoring and really interested in controlling what is and isn't allowed to be said. So I understand your frustration. I just feel like this is
I'm not frustrated.
Well, I mean, I understand your point, but I just think that this is really, we're so ahead of the curve. Like, and
I'm just saying, Elon, it's wishful thinking. Elon, I think doesn't understand. He understands a little bit, but he's new to this. The left is a cult.
yes,
We had Lance from the Surfs on this show who admitted, I asked him, okay, earmuffs for your kids. I'll keep it family friendly to the best of my abilities. I said, if you went into MGM National Harbor, it's just south of DC, it's this big shopping center casino, and loudly proclaimed what you previously said, and what did he say? Let's just put it this way. He claimed that if a straight male, that if a male engaged in adult activities with a biological male who was trans, it wasn't in fact gay. He said it in a different way. The
Much
question was
more
different.
graphic.
Much
Yeah,
more
much more
graphic.
graphic description.
And I said, if you ask the average person, would they agree with you? He said, no, of course not. I'm like, you're in a cult. If you believe so strongly in this worldview and no one agrees with you at all, like the majority of the world, you are the odd person out. You are on the wrong side of history. And so with that being said, I think Elon doesn't understand the extent to which the left is in a cult and unwilling to engage and willing to burn things down for their cult.
Well, I mean, there's definitely truth in that. I'll also add this, though. I think there is some fear that people are, expressing here about the potential for left-wing people to leave the platform. I think a lot of people who are true believers or pretty far to the left would leave. Your average, normal, run-of-the-mill left-wing person probably would not. And part of the reason these platforms were able to get away with censoring conservatives for so long is because they weren't all that afraid of like sort of a small contingent of conservatives really far to the right leaving. And so I think based on those same market principles, there's not that much of a risk of people on the left leaving.
Well, I don't care if they leave. I'm not saying that they should stay. I think this is a good thing because I think here's what's going to happen.
My point is,
taking Twitter was one of the most powerful things you could do in the culture war. Elon Musk nailed that.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're saying, the left dominates the space, and so default liberals fall in line.
Yeah.
But now with the left fleeing, it's actually a good thing because that means the popular accounts, the big accounts, the accounts that people want to aspire to be like, are going to be more moderate to right leaning, and that means regular people who are on the platform are going to see more of that.
Exactly. Okay, I just want to mention one more thing. Twitter does lean to the left, but it's not, like Tumblr was, where it's just overwhelmingly left-leaning, and anyone who goes there can sniff that out immediately and disregard most of what they're seeing. It's deceptive because it almost seems more moderate, even though traditionally the user base has been more left-wing, but that's been part of why it's been so powerful as a tool for framing the narrative on the part of the left. People get the feeling it's unbiased when it is really center-left, but...
I was going to say, I think there is something to be said about maintaining the olive branch to people who are reasonable and sending the incentives against the unreasonable people. We want them to leave so that we can have legitimate conversation. But then, you've got people out there like RFK Jr. He's on the left, and I think, he's got some good ideas, and he seems like somebody who doesn't hate us. I don't agree with him on gun control and stuff like that, but he seems like somebody who doesn't hate us. You've had Destiny on this show. He's at least willing to engage. I don't agree with him on everything, but he's at least willing to engage and have the conversation. You've got the Jimmy Dores of the world, and you've got the walk away movement where there is some level of disgust with the cult mentality and all of that. So I think there's something to be said about the olive branch.
People you're naming are people who agree on facts. Jimmy Dore, I think he's a self-proclaimed socialist. But he's like, here's what the news said, and here's what we fact checked, and here's what we found out to be true. He can bring that to us, and we say, yes, you are correct. We've analyzed the facts, and we agree on the facts. Then our opinions differ, and we're like, well, that's okay. All of our opinions differ.
Right.
You get someone like Destiny, who comes out and says Kyle Rittenhouse was acting in self-defense, and the left comes after him. He may be a liberal, but he's like, hey, I watched it. I'm not going to lie. This is what happened. And then the cult are the people who are just outright lying. Mm-hmm. They will say whatever needs to be said, even if it doesn't make sense. For instance, you might have some leftists say something like a woman should be allowed to abort her child at any point because it's part of her body, but she shouldn't be allowed to do meth because that would intentionally kill the baby, which is just confusing because it's contradictory in itself. So that to me is a cult member.
Yeah, I think without the olive branch to reasonable people, you run the risk of doing the same thing that's done to the right, where like, that meme where like the guys pushed from the left and
Yeah.
you know, and they're like, oh, yeah, are you okay? Why are you associating with the right? I think if we don't have that, and it's got to be less about ideas or even political philosophy, and more about character, you know, and people who are just reasonable.
I think there's a lot of substance to that, because one of the things that I've experienced is just in my life, it has happened to be that when I interact with people on the left, I have felt like they're exclusionary. And this is anecdotal. I know I understand that, but like if you're not welcoming, you're not going to get anybody on your side. Like when All That Remains got our start, the blogs that were giving me the most crap were the ones that were on the left. So like, I'm not going to feel any kind of sympathetic, any kind of sympathy towards people that are on the left when all the people that are attacking me are from the left. You know, you have to leave the door open.
And there's going to be a left wing.
Yes.
Right? Like no matter what, like unless you can somehow like obliterate the connection between personality type and political association, there is going to be a left wing. So
And I think
you want to promote a left wing that,
Is Jimmy Dore left wing? If you ask the quote unquote left, they'll say no, he's far right. That's insane.
Yes.
And that's where we're at. So there is right now in this country, there are actual left and actual right who are friends and having good conversations and trying to move things forward. And that would be like the Jimmy Dore and the Tucker Carlson having that conversation. But what we refer to now as left and right isn't even political. It's cult and not cult.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Dore is probably the best example of that. And then to a lesser degree, someone like me, right? Like moderate centrist, what they call right wing. Well, the left will make arguments like, yeah, but look at this. He voted for Trump. I'm like, yeah, I did vote for Trump. Jimmy Dore does not like Donald Trump, but they still call right wing. That is insane.
You voted for Trump, and like 15 years ago, Trump was a Democrat. That's
right.
People on the right would have said he's on the left.
That's their argument. The argument from the left is when people say, I'm just a regular person from 10 years ago, they say that's what conservative means. They were like, the argument the left makes is if someone from 1950 in 1970 said, I'm not conservative, I'm just a regular person from 15 years ago, they would say, yeah, before civil rights. Like, yes, so you are right wing, you are conservative because you're not with the times or whatever. The difference today is left and right in the sense of our politics, cultural, traditional versus economic, communal systems or capital systems mean absolutely nothing. Jimmy Dore, a socialist, is right wing. You can deviate from leftist economic policy, but you can't deviate from social cult policy, even if it doesn't make sense. Like when that dude said, you can take meth, or a woman can't take meth because it'll kill the baby, but you can't kill the baby.
Yeah.
Like it literally makes no sense. As long as he is saying words that align with the quote unquote left, the cult, then you're left. That's it. Even I think the funny thing about that whole debate is Seamus is over here, as he often is, as the pro-life guy. He's not even saying anything. And me, the traditional pro-choice guy, arguing with the pro-abortion guy, and he's calling me pro-life right-wing.
Well, forced birther. And part of it was, I didn't, it's so stupid. I didn't want to dogpile him, but there were one or two moments. I mean, there were a few moments where he said things that were blatantly factually incorrect. But then when he was saying things that were blatantly factually incorrect related to healthcare for children and trying to justify mutilation, I had to jump in. I mean, but I needed to correct the nonsense he was saying.
No.
But yeah, part of why I was remaining quiet wasn't because I was like, oh man, like obviously, I believe this is an incredibly important issue. It's incredibly important to me, but I thought they're having the discussion and it would be in bad taste if this was a jumping.
I'm not trying to rehash that episode.
No,
I'm just trying to point out that I'm clearly at odds with you on a lot of these issues as someone who's like moderate, slightly left-leaning on the issue, but to their perspective, he's equating you and I together despite the fact that we disagree.
Which is a huge compliment for you, you know what I mean?
Yes, of course. But let's jump to this next story because this one's pretty shocking. We got this from the Post Millennial. Carlson was told by a member of the Fox board that he was taken off the air as part of the Dominion settlement per Tucker's legal team. Two people briefed in the conversation told Axios that Carlson had been told by a Fox board member that he was taken off the air abruptly last month as part of a settlement with Dominion Voting Systems. The $787 million settlement reached by the two parties came less than a week after it was revealed Carlson was off the air. In a letter from Carlson's lawyers to Fox News, they argue that Carlson's non-compete clause in his contract, which runs through 2025, is no longer valid, alleging Fox employees, including Rupert Murdoch himself, broke promises to Carlson intentionally and with reckless disregard for the truth. The lawyers accused Fox executives, which two sources told Axios, are Viet Din and Murdoch of making material misrepresentations or promises to Carlson that was intentionally broken, constituting fraud. The revelation comes as Tucker Carlson has launched a new show on Twitter. So this is kind of crazy. The reporting that Dominion basically told Fox, you've got to fire Tucker Carlson. And then why would they do it? Let's break this down.
You got to fire Tucker Carlson and almost $1 billion.
But consider this. I do a contract with somebody. They can't abruptly fire me without cause. Contracts will have terms. And if you do your contract right, it gives you some protections. So I've done contracts before with networks, and they've all said, if you terminate the show, remove him, or in any way inhibit his work, it will constitute a breach of contract, and party will be responsible for paying out the full amount of the contract, therein or whatever. So if you do a contract for $1 million over 3 years, and then 6 months in they say your show's off the air, you got to pay me the $1 million right now. That is the contract agreement. And so typically they don't like to do that. To break this contract with Tucker Carlson implies Dominion was going after more money. So basically the cost benefit analysis comes in and Fox News says, how much money will we lose if we defy Dominion? Is it going to be another 100, 200, 300 million? How much do we lose if Tucker sues us? Fire Tucker.
By the way, I could be mistaken here, but if I'm correct, Tucker wasn't really blaming Dominion for the election outcomes. Yeah,
no,
so
he was denying.
why-
He was. This is the crazy thing about it. Tucker is the guy who said to Sidney Powell, come on my show and I'll give you all the time in the world to prove your claims. Where's the evidence? And he got attacked by Trump supporters for it.
So why would Dominion want him out?
I don't know. Because maybe the people who work at Dominion are just cult members, and they're like, "Here's our opportunity to strike at the heart of Fox News."
Well, and then they would lump all dissident conservatives in under the category of election denial or whatever label they're using.
No, let me ask you guys this question: why won't the left go after Hannity? Why is Tucker Carlson the target, despite the fact that Tucker Carlson overlaps with the left on a ton of issues?
Because he's moving the Overton window.
Populism,
Yep.
economic populism, anti-war, yet they attack him exclusively.
He's the closest to anti-government. Like Sean Hannity is not anti-government at by any stretch of the imagination. He'll talk about small government, but Sean Hannity is as typical of a Republican that as you can probably get. Tucker Carlson, for all the fact that he used to be a Democrat like back in the day, and I'm sure that he's comfortable with a fairly large government too, he's still anti-establishment. So even if he would want a big government, he doesn't want the type of big government that we have now. So I imagine that's why he gets the heat that he does.
Didn't Tucker Carlson recently call himself a liberal?
I mean, he did support Ron Paul when he was running.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think when he says liberal, he means like liberal in the
Classical
sense.
sense.
Yeah, classical
And,
sense.
and I would
That's
say
what I mean.
Hannity is part of the conservative Inc. cult.
Yes.
And so at some point, the cults all do their own thing, but don't come after each other. It's the people who step outside of the cult, outside of the allowable opinion that have to be taken out and have to be made out to be crazy.
Shout out to Tom Woods for that 3x5 card.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did he support Ron Paul?
I think he vocally did. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, when Ron Paul spoke at his counter event to the GOP National Convention, that Tucker Carlson spoke there. Don't quote me on that, but I think he did. But he was vocally in support of Ron Paul.
Well, yeah, and I think they also want to go after someone who they perceive as weak because they're outside of one of those bubbles, right? When you're standing on your own and there aren't going to be as many people who have your back when they start running hit pieces on you, it's much easier to take you out.
I wonder how effective that will be now with the largest communications platform. I don't know.
That's the irony. He hasn't evolved into his ultimate form, and now he has the room to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely going to be, extremely interesting to see what does happen. I kind of smelled that he was going to go to Twitter. I'd been talking about it because Musk has made comments about when he bought Twitter, he was thinking, there's no place like WeChat in the U.S. So like WeChat in China, you can pay for everything. You can watch videos and et cetera. And when he bought Twitter, he was thinking, I think that, we should make Twitter into something.
I think it's going to work.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about he's already responded saying like Twitter TV app or something like that, Twitter Live app, so that you can open your TV and watch Twitter videos. People are going to be producing video content. He's already got the subscriptions going. That's the first thing he has to do. People subscribe to content that generates revenue for the person, which gets them to use the platform more. It generates revenue for Twitter. It puts Patreon out of business. It's a big threat to Rumble as well, considering he's allowing free speech. But I'm really excited about Patreon imploding because there's no way you can compete. You've got your followers on Twitter already. Patreon is where you try to direct them. If they're already on Twitter, you can just be like, click that little button right there. Yeah. Hey, you follow me? Click that button. Boom. You got a new subscriber. So it's way easier to convert your existing fan base. Elon knew this. I think him going after Twitter to buy it in the first place, it had a lot more to do with than just the Babylon Bee. People were talking about how this is actually an effective app for communicating over long distances, like sending messages from Mars, for instance.
Yeah, exactly.
You post it and you let it go, and then it appears when it appears. So I think Elon's got big plans. I'm just the waiting I can't stand.
You were saying he was kind of late for the party. He even admitted after OpenAI launched GPT-4, he's going to start training his own LLM. He knows he's late to the party there. But, there's something where there's all these pots in the fire that he's got going that I think either he has an idea of where they may converge in the future, or he's just actually trying out a bunch of things and seeing what works. I'm excited to see what happens with Twitter, but, with this LLM thing.
What's LLM?
The large language models, like, GPT.
Right.
So he's going to start training his own one. He said he's going to call it Truth GPT,
right?
Which will basically just not have the biases and stuff like that in there. And he knows he's behind the curve, but if anyone behind the curve can do it, it's probably him.
I've been using Midjourney a lot. You may have seen I posted a picture on Twitter, which I think is very important. Actually, I'm going to pull it up right now. I think it is one of the most important images of this or any generation. Let me just try and scroll down here, and I think it's going to be right here. Let me pull this one over. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. The most important photo. America's back, baby. For those who are just listening, it's a picture of Donald Trump and Sonic the Hedgehog running in Washington, D.C. for some reason. And then I have this picture of Donald Trump shaking hands with Sonic the Hedgehog for some reason. But I've been using Midjourney, and so it is interesting to see where we go. Like, this photo of Donald Trump looks real. I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog obviously does not look real. It's not a real thing. But the photo of Trump looks like it's actually Trump running. And we've already seen a bunch of photos of him getting arrested and things like that. It took me 10 seconds to do this. I just typed it in as a bit. Donald Trump running beside Sonic the Hedgehog. Enter. Boom. 30 seconds goes by and it just pops up on the screen. So things are starting to get crazy. I think it'll be, I don't know, I wanted to bring that up. I think it'll be fascinating to see where this AI stuff goes, especially if Elon Musk is getting involved, and especially if the Twitter fire hose is plugged right into the language and learning model. It's going to create, it's going to create some kind of weird Borg structure, a hive mind of all of our thoughts.
No, oh my gosh, all of our thoughts from Twitter?
Yep.
That thing's going to be horrible.
It's just going to be Pepe. It's going to be just like a big Pepe the Frog, and it's like, I am incarnate, I am Kek, and we're going to be like, wow, it happened.
The dark painting of the world.
As a filmmaker, they have speech to text. I follow the Code Report and a bunch of videos like that, and it's just insane with the amount of plugins. I was just watching something today that was saying, actually, it wasn't the open letter where people were saying we need to slow down AI. It was another one saying that the ones who aren't doing it open sourced actually are having a big a hindrance, because all the open source ones seem to be evolving a lot faster.
Did you have you heard of that video AI that's like Midjourney? You can type in walking through a forest at night, and it will generate a video of walking through the forest at night. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, it can do just speech to text, or just speech to video, and it's only a couple seconds long. But just remember, anyone listening, that's the worst it's going to look. And it doesn't look that bad right now.
I've seen the videos, and it's nuts.
There's apps right now where you'll have people on their phones just filming themselves, like, running through their house or something like that. And then with a few prompts and 10 seconds later, the whole landscape around turns into like, he's now wearing Indiana Jones type stuff, and the place he's in is like an underground catacombs or something.
This is actually why another good reason I think Twitter might end up being the place in terms of the internet. Because if it's a platform where people are just sharing ideas, and Elon does get this stuff integrated, we're coming to the point where Look, man, I'm an artist. I made that picture of of Donald Trump and Sonic the Hedgehog running in Washington, D.C.
You had a beret on as you did it.
Well, if someone uses a paintbrush to make an image, they're using a tool to do it. It's still their image. Now we're at the point where the canvas and the paintbrush is literally just an AI. You tell it what to make, you refine it, it is your art, and it feels, a lot of people probably disagree, but we're not going to be thinking that in 10, 20 years. People are going to be like, that was so creative of you to make that movie. They're going to be like, Seamus, that feature-length film you made last night was incredible. I enjoyed the whole thing.
Thanks.
I enjoyed it too.
No problem. No, I appreciate it. I'm glad
But
you guys enjoyed
you're
it.
going to say...
All by myself, actually.
They're going to... Right now, check it out. They have apps where you can animate images. You can post a picture of a person and then send in text or play an audio file, and it will sync the photo with the audio file. We've already seen the stuff where people are singing, right? We did the music video Genocide where we had like Taylor Loren singing our song. They have high resolution versions of it. Someone used Midjourney to generate a sci-fi looking spaceship captain female. Then they wrote out with a text-to-speech program a paragraph. They then took that audio file and put it in this program with the image and made her talk. That was like 1 + 2 = 3. Imagine someone in a year having a program that does all of that instantly. And then once you have those things, all you got to do is type in a movie about a space captain leaving Earth to go find a new colony, but gets betrayed by the first mate, and then aliens come, and the first mate was working with aliens the whole time. And then it will just render the whole movie like that.
It's crazy. And it's all based upon the language models, because there's a ton of different AI models, but then all of a sudden 2017 rolls around and the language models start doing what the other models weren't able to do. Like language models can now do chemistry better than chemistry AI, which is trained specifically for that. It's starting to progress where everyone who is in all these other camps of AI, they're only focusing on one platform, which means the progress is going to go that much faster.
Let's jump to this next story, ladies and gentlemen. We have this tweet from BBC News World. What is this? It says, why some people, what do you mean by some people?
My God.
Are spreading false rumors about the Texas gunman. Seamus, what do they mean, some people?
I don't know exactly what they mean. Now, I'm gonna assume this is some kind of racist dog whistle,
Sounds
because that's
racist.
what it sounds like.
It is. And then they post this picture of me, right? And, it looks like they've darkened my skin. I just can't believe. Some people?
Yeah, what does
this mean? I do think it's hilarious that they said some people instead of just saying my name.
And
why
also
some people are spreading false rumors.
Also,
It's a
like
picture of me.
Well, no, and this is what's really insidious about this, right? So they have some people that refers to a group, and then Texas gunman, which refers to one person. So your brain goes to the picture of the person there is the gunman. So it really does. When I first saw this, I was like, oh my, is this like a meme or something that like
look what
the
they're doing.
lefties are trying to joke that Tim is responsible for this? And
Yeah.
so they're posting,
Well,
but no, they literally posted your image.
Ashley St. Clair said noticed the same thing. She tweeted about it. She said that it was like disgusting that
Yeah.
they made that title, because it does look like they're saying or implying that Tim is the shooter.
Yeah. No, it seriously does look like that. It looks like that. It
And
really
they definitely
does.
picked a picture that, could somewhat closely look like a mugshot.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I think I might have to
They
sue the
should have
BBC for doing
mid-journeyed it
that.
up a little bit.
If
but-
Tim made a Mobb Deep album cover, it would be that. It would be that picture.
Yeah, that's a fair point, because saying some people is a reference to multiple people, but then saying
Exactly.
singular Texas gunman and showing the image is to imply that was me. I think I might have to sue BBC. I'm going to sue you. You got to change that. I'm going to sue you. I'm telling you. Check it out though. Here's what they say. Why some people are spreading false rumors about the Texas gunman. This article is actually hilarious because it gives you a bunch of patter fluff nonsense in the beginning that means nothing, that there's no point in reading. It's just like, there's a guy and he was shooting people, blah, blah, blah. What did the suspect post? Blah, blah, blah. How do we know the account was his? My favorite part. The BBC has examined the material and we can be confident the suspect was the person behind the posts. Hey, confidence is not confirmation. So this is an opinion piece. BBC.
Well, so hold on. Yeah, why are they confident? Where's their
They don't
confidence
say.
coming from? I know what their confidence is coming from. It fits their narrative.
Look at this. It says Garcia appeared to use the account as an online diary. He posted multiple documents, including his name, date of birth, and other identifying details, including a plane ticket, a speeding ticket, and an ID card. This is what we call in the business an orgy of evidence.
Well, I think
Do
we
you guys
can
know,
rest.
do you guys get that reference? When you walk into a crime scene and you see like all the documents laid out perfectly, it's like, oh boy, I believe that.
Wasn't that from Seven where they talked about it?
No, that was Minority Report.
There you go.
They go into the room and there's all the photos of Tom Cruise's kid, and then Colin Farrell's like, "This is what we call an orgy of evidence. It's not believable. Like you walk in and they're just like, look, here's the guy who did it." I think it's almost like as absurd as if, could you imagine if there was a story that was as crazy as to suggest that like maybe a plane crashed and then like a passport survived the fireball and landed on the ground, thousands of people.
Oh my
and everyone
gosh, in the rubble.
If you can believe that, yeah.
and then anyway, it says, despite the clear evidence, yeah, they do. That's an opinion right there.
Yeah.
Several activists and internet personalities, including at least one mentioned in Garcia's post, have attempted to cast doubt on the authenticity of the material. They've claimed without evidence that it's part of a psychological operation or false flag by the government to smear those on the right or far right. Well, I didn't say any of that later stuff, false flag. I did say PSYOP, but PSYOP it could include corporations and private sector as well. Mm-hmm. So you see how they expand upon it, take what you say, and then add context to it. But I love how they're just like at the bottom, like a picture of me. Adding to the misinformation, blah, blah, blah. What do they say? What is it? The podcaster Tim Pool, a former Occupy Wall Street supporter and Vice News reporter, was among those mentioned several times. I got a message earlier today because the USA Today also talked about me and they called me a former journalist. I'm like, oh, okay, sure, thanks. They're so threatened. There's no evidence that Garcia was inspired to action by Mr. Pool's podcasts, which cover right-wing talking points and conspiracy theories.
Oh my gosh.
But Mr. Pool immediately tried to cast doubt on the veracity of the material, accusing those digging up the material as being part of a psyop. Yes. BBC, your opinion piece is interesting to me, but please spare me your opinion piece and don't use my photo in the way you did. But I would just like to point out, what do we have here? A couple weeks before this incident, someone started posting random photos from Reddit and posting 4 clips from Timcast IRL, a single episode, and making a post about libs of TikTok to no followers, to nobody. For what reason? A Mexican neo-Nazi inspired by a Jewish woman and a mixed-race Korean guy. What are they trying to imply here? And the Nazi stuff, I just think is the most absurd, considering they're like, libs of TikTok is great. It's like, Haya Rychik is Jewish.
He could be
This
a
is the
self-hating
stupidest
Mexican.
thing I've ever heard. And so anyway, that's the story. And then I go, that sounds like BS. Oh, but BBC better write up a whole article about it and put his picture in it. Well, thanks for that, BBC. Appreciate it.
The existence of the CIA at all means that all conspiracy theories are at least plausible. Period. If it exists, like how many times has there been, covert operations that have come to light that the CIA was involved in? COINTELPRO, what was it called? COINTELPRO. There.
So this is Bellingcat that uncovered this profile. How? Like, serious question. A Bellingcat researcher just so happened to be browsing Russian social media, underground Russian social media, and found a profile with no followers? Come on, dude.
And it's the same guy that connected the New York Times with the Ukraine leader.
It's information laundering. What they do is Bellingcat can write whatever they want and then say, oh, look at this. This is interesting. Then the media writes it up and they can't be sued. That's how it works. And Bellingcat's a nonprofit, which is very, very difficult to get money out of. So in my humble opinion, I believe at the very least, the Bellingcat people are so bad at their jobs, they genuinely believe random garbage on the internet. Let me tell you how easy it is. Make a profile. Make 10 profiles. Post a series of images about a specific individual you want to smear. So right now, someone could go on a Russian website and make a profile where they post a bunch of pictures of Hasidic Jewish Nazis, seemingly making no sense. No pictures of faces or anything like that. They can then write posts and then wait. And then as soon as something happens, they can take the picture of the individual, upload it as the profile picture, then add demographic information, birth date, location, and the BBC will be like, well, the birth date matches. That proves it, even though they made the profile in advance. And I'm not saying it's a government having to do it. And I'm not saying that it's an intelligence agency. I'm saying literally any activist can do this right now. Any random person sitting in their mom's basement can do this right now. Mm-hmm. So for you to be like, we're confident it's actually the account is just nonsense.
Well, again, these are
the people who believe
Jussie Smollett, right?
Right.
These are the people who believe Jussie Smollett.
Yeah.
Well, you don't.
I know I'm a bad guy. And I'm just saying, look, like, it's just, I think if you did have a lunatic who had posted a couple clips from Tim's show, obviously it goes without saying that doesn't make Tim at all culpable for the behavior of that lunatic.
guy wasn't
but
even
even
subscribed.
so, yeah.
The clips show he wasn't even subscribed to the channel.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
It's like he's a fan. Like he wasn't even subscribed. It was 4 clips from one show.
But yeah, so my point is this is grasping at straws, right? Because even if they can definitively prove, even if it turns out that this is legitimate, that really is this guy's profile, they're telling the truth and they have good reasons to be confident, that still is not the nail in the coffin that they think it is here.
I mean, I got to be honest. Like, I think it's funny and I really just don't care. I think we've won so much ground in the culture war that it is completely meaningless that they would even do it, assuming it was a psyop. It means nothing to me. It's just funny.
The
You know what
fact
I mean?
that every chance they get, they're just slandering, like Musk or Timcast or whoever it is that is the opposing view. It's straight slander, just associations with the most terrible organization in history, the Nazis, right? That's just it shows that they have no substance.
Here's how I responded. Ian Miles Chong tweeted something out. Keith Olbermann responded saying, "Sure, it's suspect because your side and libs of TikTok got caught inspiring a mass murderer. Blood on your hands, F you." And I said, I really don't care what the cult thinks, like at all. Fart, Keith Olbermann. I'd say you're dumb as a box of rocks, but that's demeaning to rocks. Like, I just, do I care about what ranting, raving lunatic Keith Olbermann thinks? He thought Donald Trump was a Russian spy. Like, these people are not smart people, and there's nothing like, they try to shame you, and I'm just like, you can't shame me. Well, you booze me, nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer.
Exactly. I mean, for any story, especially if it's something that suits their narrative, you really need to see hard proof from them in order to give it any level of credibility.
But I just don't care. Keith Olbermann could come out and be like, look at this picture of a thing happening, and I'd just laugh at him and be like, you are a really dumb guy, and your words are meaningless, and there's no reason for me to read them. Like, there is nothing Keith Olbermann can say that will impact my life in any meaningful way, politically, media-wise. I don't care about these people.
He's a real piece of trash.
But it's not just him. It's like I've gotten to the point where in the culture war, a leftist can come and start going in my ears, and I'm just like, it does nothing. But it has no bearing whatsoever.
It's like you said. It's all about narrative control, because ostensibly it's about, there was a shooting and it's tragic, and they want us to believe that this is a Mexican, like, it's a bold claim to say it's a Mexican white supremacist, and they will use the tragedy to ostensibly run that narrative, when at the same time there was other shootings that happened. Like, there was a shooting that happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma right around that same time. As far as I know, nobody watched your show on that shooting, so that's not the one that they choose. They choose the one where they have to make the claim that it's a Mexican white supremacist just to be able to say that it's somebody who's watching.
So waiting
your show.
on that Las Vegas shooter motivation.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Or the
Nashville?
manifesto from the Covenant shooting.
So that Nashville incident, as well as the Vegas one, we still haven't figured out those, have we?
That was 20 minutes from my daughter was going to a private school like 20 minutes away from there.
Wow.
That one hit close to home. But yeah, we don't hear much about that. And that was a Christian school.
The fact that you have almost no information, or had to wait so long to get information about the Nashville shooter. The manifesto is still not out, but this had so much information the very next day, and you're not supposed to be suspect. If you're skeptical at all, it's verboten to be skeptical. Give me a break.
And the other thing I've noticed looking at the coverage of this, and this has to be part of the narrative control too, is every single article has this same talking point of over 200 mass shootings this year.
Yeah.
All of them. And they all cite the same nonprofit.
It's a lie.
Yeah, and they all cite the same nonprofit that is saying this. Now, that nonprofit says there's been 1,200 defensive uses of guns. That's ridiculous. Anybody who knows about that statistic knows that there's hundreds of thousands of defensive uses of guns every year. So it makes you wonder, how the hell are they defining a mass shooting to come to that number?
It's usually 3 or more people being injured by a firearm. And so what they'll do is this little bait and switch where they have one definition of a mass shooting that says something depending on the definition you're looking at, either 3 people being injured with a firearm or 3 people being killed. And when people hear mass shooting, of course, they don't think that that's where the bar is. They're thinking of a school shooting. They're thinking of a large group of people being massacred. So, yeah, I think 3 people being injured by a firearm is a very different thing from a public massacre. But you use the way the term is used paints a picture that 200 separate times this year already there have been these massive, Columbine level events.
Exactly. When you use the phrase mass shooting, it brings to mind Columbine or Virginia Tech or Parkland or any of the other horrible, horrible, horrible shootings. And when you're talking about 200 of them so far this year, they're talking about 2 probably really terrible shootings and 198 that are 3 people took rounds when a drug deal went bad. And that's what a mass shooting is.
Exactly. And that's one thing. So a lot of it is like gang activities, drug deals, someone pulling out a gun. Again, that's not a good thing. That's not a thing we want to tolerate in our country. We want to clean that up. But that is not something that belongs in the same category as an event like a school shooting.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They're bringing to mind the school shooting. So it's the most horrible event that happens in America.
It puts you in the most emotional state where you might be the most reactive and the most accepting of a narrative.
It's also very understanding of how people read information. Like this one, most people will read the headline, they'll read maybe the first couple lines in there, and they'll come to their conclusions. But you have to post something like this BBC article specifically because of the way that people look for information. We want to confirm what we already kind of believe. So if we want to look up something like this and we see, okay, yeah, sure, it makes perfect sense. And, it writes off Tim in a very interesting, dismissive way. So this is also very intelligent in how people peruse their information and come to their conclusions and just validate what they've already believed.
I particularly like this headline from Unheard. Don't blame Tim Pool for the Texas mall shooting.
That's really nice of him.
Thank you for that.
Look at that picture. Look at the picture too. You're just so what are you doing?
I think I look pretty good in that picture.
No, but it's kind of like a shrugging.
I think that's your outro, actually. One clip your outro.
One other thing that I want to point out is that the
centrist media personality. See, thank you, Unheard.
The mass shooter stuff is actually dual use, right? So one thing, it can demonize people or groups of people. They can use it to say, oh, these people are saying the wrong things, blah, blah, blah. And on the second point, it gives them a route to attack rifles, which rifles are the tools that will keep a tyrannical government at bay. That's why they are after rifles. And they're not after machine guns. They're not after tank busters, grenades. They're after rifles. And that's because of Vietnam, because of Afghanistan, because all over the world, if you have a population that's armed with rifles that can take shots at 300, 400, 500 yards, they can harass a well-equipped army and they can basically wait them out. And that's the last thing that the government wants to have to deal with. They want to get rid of the rifles so that way they can go ahead and say, all right, we're going to institute this particular law that violates your rights, and people are not in a position to say, no, we're going to put our foot down.
We got. I want to jump to this story from Timcast.com. Jury rules Trump committed battery and defamed E. Jean Carroll. Former president calls verdict a disgrace. A jury has ruled that former President Donald Trump committed battery on E. Jean Carroll in 1996 and later defamed her. Carroll has claimed Trump raped her in a Bergdorf Goodman dressing room in New York City. Quote, I'm here because Donald Trump raped me, and when I wrote about it, he said it didn't happen. Carroll testified. Trump did not testify or call any witnesses to the case. The jury ruled that Trump did not rape Carroll, but that he is liable for sexual abuse. He has now been ordered to pay her $5 million in damages in the civil case. There are no criminal charges. Carroll went public, blah, blah, blah. This is a crazy story. Trump said, I have absolutely no idea who this woman is. This verdict is a disgrace, a continuation of the greatest witch hunt of all time. How does something like this happen? It's been 30 some odd years, and now Trump's got to pay $5 million. What evidence did they have? I guess they must have had something, right?
Did she wear a blue dress or something? I mean,
I don't know. Trump's not doing himself any favors, because apparently in the deposition, he said something like he told the lawyer questioning him that she wasn't hot enough for him. Did you guys see that?
He did. It ruled.
Man, he plays at the base no matter what, man.
It was awesome.
He said something like, "She's not really my type, and quite frankly, neither are you." So you didn't need to say that. You're not doing yourself any favors.
No, but he was doing us favors. He is a man of the people.
Like, how do you think a jury responds when they hear that?
Snickers,
Right,
personally. I chuckle. I think they chuckle.
A New York jury.
Yeah. He's like, oh, should I not have said that?
If they had any sense of humor,
crowd.
they would.
I just don't know. Like, did she have like actual evidence? A jury of 6 men and 3 men awarded her $5 million. Trump called it a disgrace. What is the evidence? I suppose that they saw that they felt that warranted Trump having to pay. They said former magazine writer was abused by Trump nearly 30 years ago. The jury did not find that he raped her as she had long claimed. The jury returning the verdict shortly after 3 p.m. found Trump is running to regain his presidency. Blah, 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 blah. Mr. Trump's lawyers called no witnesses. He never appeared at the trial to hear Miss Carroll, who had sued him last year. So maybe that's it. It's just because he didn't defend himself that they were just like, okay, I guess default.
Maybe.
I don't know. She walked out of the courthouse grinning from ear to ear. This is crazy to me.
Sure she did.
It's absolutely crazy.
I think
$5
I saw
million.
that the judge would not allow him or his defense to post evidence for their defense online too. So he's like gagged.
I'd be curious to see. So the other thing that popped up was this story here, because apparently I'm just in the news all the time. Donald Trump's trial juror, fan of right-wing provocateur, Tim Pool. What website is this?
See, this
How
is
are
the kind of
you-
credence that would be in this jury.
What is this
Yeah.
even website?
Yeah, totally.
Apoye.com. They say, where do we have this? A security guard, 31 from the Bronx, said he got his news and information from podcasts. He particularly listened to one by Tim Pool, a controversial right-wing comment. Well, at least Unheard called me a centrist. But I'm curious. For this is an international article because it says it was May 10th. So, but I'm curious. Somebody who watches this show must have seen some pretty damning evidence if they're going to convict Trump, right? I don't know. What do you guys think?
I was not paying that close of attention to that trial. I heard a little bit about it today, but I didn't get a chance to look into the verdict, why they
See, if
ruled the way they did.
What could the
I
evidence
want
be? Did you like sniff his finger or
30
something?
30-year-old
Like
is there a video of it?
Wouldn't that be
I just don't understand. How could you have
everywhere now?
evidence this long
Yeah.
of something like that happening? They're like, well, it didn't happen, but Trump's got to pay her anyway.
Yes.
I mean, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, wouldn't the evidence be everywhere now? Then wouldn't something
Right.
be out there about
They would
it?
have leaked something.
They love talking about him. So
I think
it
a
would
lady
be
said
out.
Trump did a thing, and they're like, okay, pay her. I think that's what happened. So then when I hear that like one of the jurors was a fan, I'm like, what? He had to have seen something, right? I just can't believe that somebody who would watch this show would be like, I don't need evidence. I will convict. I will agree. It's not conviction, I guess. I will
Found liable.
find Trump liable. There you go.
That's funny that he paid $5 million to use that line.
Which one?
You're not
my
pretty
type.
enough for me. Or you're not my type.
That's what it was.
You
yeah.
probably thought it was funny. It's like, I'll pay $5 million to say that.
We all enjoyed it, I guess. They say that Mr. Tacopina clashed the judge, seeking a mistrial on pervasive, unfair, and prejudicial rulings, based in part on what he described as the judge improperly sustaining objections by Ms. Carroll's lawyers, who argued that his questions were argumentative. At one point, Judge Kaplan quoted the definition of an argumentative question from Black's Law Dictionary, reading it aloud to Mr. Tacopina. I don't believe it. I really just
Someone
don't
said
believe
that
it.
you only need 6 jurors to find the person guilty in a civil trial. I don't know at all. And I'm just seeing something that someone was saying on the internet.
I don't know, man.
Too, so
I just think all of this is fake.
I think there's just going to be a nonstop circus around him through the entire election
Yeah, for
cycle
sure.
to kind of to have everyone looking at these different things and to distract away from anything that he might have to say about the nonsense.
I think this country's already fallen off a cliff. Right, we had that story earlier about the border crossings, 26,000 apprehensions, and the Biden admin's like, just release them to the streets. So they're just going to release a whole bunch of. They're basically saying there's no border anymore. And I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
They said that Title 42 ends, they will enter this country, and they will be released, which means it's a free for all. So I see that. I'm kind of it's hard for me to get enthused by any of this news where I'm just sitting here thinking like we are free falling.
So with stuff like this, I think people need to. I think you're right. I think we're over the cliff, and we need to give up on any kind of political solution from the federal level. However, the states and the localities have a lot of decision-making authority under the 10th Amendment, a lot. And I think that's really got to be the political thing that is embraced, this concept of nullification. There is absolutely no reason. There's absolutely no reason that states can't set their own immigration policies. That's not in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. They have every bit of authority to do that. And basically, not basically, everything that's not listed explicitly in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution is up for this kind of movement. So I really think that's what's got to happen is we've got to realign politics with culture closer to the localities in these states. And then that's who was always meant to be making the majority of decisions anyway.
Radical decentralization.
That's what has to happen. But not just that in theory. It was given to us by the founders. That power was there and debated heavily, for the states and the localities to have this. And that is, in my opinion, what has to happen is we have got to bring the sovereignty back down as close to the individual as possible.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to ask you, I hear you, but what would that look like at a state level? How would that operate if states were having more strict immigration laws or enforcing them in a way that the federal government wasn't?
They would, they would have whatever authorities and resources at their disposal. So like the Texas National Guard, they could authorize that to do what they want. Because if Texas being a border town, and is affected the most, why shouldn't they have the most say? Or why shouldn't they do it as they see fit when they're being essentially made to stand down by the feds when they have no authority to do that in the first place?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I hear you. No, look, I'm all about like states' rights in having the states step in, especially when the federal government is failing to do their duty. I hope something like that could work. I'm a little worried though, just about how we'd be able to pull that off, especially with budgets. The states would have to. And I agree with you that the states at some point have to do something if the federal government isn't going to step in and do anything. So we're definitely on the same page there. I'm just a little worried about how effective it's going to be.
Well, I get encouraged by it because almost anything that's good that happens at this level. Like you see states like legalizing gold and silver as legal tender. You see states like there was just a major victory for the Defend the Guard bill in the Senate in Arizona. You see constitutional carry at the state level. Like you see these different things that happen, and what wins like that could you say have happened at the federal level in the past 5 years?
None, and that's the point.
Very little.
Yeah. The thing is the infrastructure that the infrastructure.
I would say but that's judicial, but still.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that.
The things that we're discussing right now are all the infrastructure is all there. It's the way that our government's set up currently. So it's really just states taking the authority that they have. Governors getting some balls and state legislatures getting some balls and doing things that they decide are good for their states, whether it be Abbott in Texas or whether it be, DeSantis. These are governors that are doing things that help their states, and other governors should follow suit.
And here's the thing. It's not just the states. The localities have this authority. Yeah. And so when the localities start to embrace this, that starts to set the tone for the culture in the state or the conversation in the state to make a move at the state. And what we're describing is actually what the Mises Caucus is all about. Like we're calling it Project Decentralized Revolution. We're recruiting people to run for city council, mayor, school board, sheriff, judge, to run for these types of offices where you can nullify the federal government from that local level for the specific purpose to nullify the federal government at that level. That's what we're all about. We know that we're not winning governor and Senate, like we're realistic, but this is what, in my opinion, has to be done. And it kind of brings together both the political solution and the cultural solution, because culture is something that emerges from the ground up. It's not something they're trying to bring it down from the top, but that it's not organic. It's not real. So by bringing the community together at that local level to make these decisions and insulate ourselves from the insanity of the feds, that I think is the thing that in time can generate the broader conversations.
What's the biggest resistance you would find to something like that? Just maybe like one example of the biggest resistance you would find and how you'd face that.
The cult mentality that seeks power and the will to dominate.
It is the will to dominate, because the thing that people that are against libertarian ideals tend to object to, even if they don't say it, is they can't do things that they want to do that will negatively affect other people, right? They can't implement this policy or implement this project And the reason is because it'll affect other people. And so people don't want to vote libertarian if they can't use the government to push other people around, whether it be push other people around by getting money from the government and having funding, whatever their pet project is, or maybe it's make sure that this person doesn't do a drug that I don't like or doesn't have a lifestyle that I don't like. The will to dominate, libido dominante, is something that is ingrained in a significant portion of humans, probably most humans, and it's a very small portion of people that are like, I really am a live and let live person. And if it wasn't for that fact, that it is a very small portion, you would see more libertarian policies actually in the world. Because everyone says they're libertarian. Everyone says, no, I don't want to, I'm a live and let live kind of guy, until it comes down to actually voting as if you're a live and let live kind of guy.
And I just want to plug one resource on this front. The guys over at the 10th Amendment Center, Michael Bolden and Mike Meharry, and the 10thamendmentcenter.com, they do this work, and they track all of these nullification type of bills that are happening at the various states around the country. So there already is that repository, and they have sample legislation on their website that anybody can start taking to their city council or to their state rep to do various things, from, a gun sanctuary where, the state or the locality is going to not comply with federal gun control laws, to the gold and silver repositories, to decriminalization, to the banning of the warrantless use of surveillance technology. All of this stuff can be done. Like, once you realize how short of a list of authority is in Article 1, Section 8, your imagination could run wild on what you can insulate yourself from in your community from the feds.
I think that if we got rid of party affiliation on ballots, you'd see a lot of libertarians in office.
Probably.
You'd see a lot less Democrats. You'd see a lot of different parties in general.
The closest thing that I can say that backs that up is that the majority of victories for Big L libertarians are at the local level, and specifically where the state makes it so that local level races don't have party affiliation.
Yep. What did they just say? Unaffiliated?
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of local politicians that we've talked about who are clearly Democrats, but they're listed as unaffiliated, even though they are members of the Democratic Party and they fundraise with them and things like that. But like you said, so I think we talked about it before. Get rid of DNR and L or whatever, just names, and then let the uninformed voters go in and be confused and vote at random. They'll just check a random box or don't vote. If you don't know who you're voting for, don't vote.
You'd see a lot fewer Democratic celebrities getting on television saying, just go out and vote.
Yep.
I mean, this is one of my pet peeves. This is one of my pet peeves, right? Every single time you see one of these get out and vote PSAs, it is almost always a spokesperson from the left. And it's because they know the people who are only going out to vote because a celebrity on their television told them to don't know anything and will almost certainly vote Democrat.
Get out the vote, or get out the vote is always targeting people that are uninformed about what they're voting for.
Exactly.
Let me give one piece of pushback here, and this is an example, and that maybe this wouldn't work out. So I remember I was working for Maj Toure when he was running for city council in Philadelphia. Now, the rules for city council in Philadelphia are you have 7 at-large positions on the city council, and any one party is only allowed to have 5 of those spots, so the 2 spots are reserved for the minority party. And what happened in that race, this was 2019, is that a couple of Democrats created a fake third party called the People's Party. And, so it wasn't subject to the party line. And yet they got pumped with millions of dollars and almost took all 7 spots. They took 6. So they took the 6th spot and almost took the 7th spot.
Wow. Well, all right.
Now that's Philadelphia, though.
Yeah.
Which brings me to another potential solution. What about the idea of, I don't know if this, I don't know about if this would require like a state constitutional convention, but when you think of the county party, or not parties, the county governments, what would happen if the collective of county polities came together and essentially just pushed out the big cities to be their own self-governing units? Be like, Philadelphia, love the stuff that you produce for us. Don't really like sharing a government with you here in Pennsylvania.
So
we'll have borders with you. But
you're saying that we should build a wall, but not on the southern border, just around all of the cities?
A political wall, yeah.
Yeah.
A physical wall.
I've definitely
30 feet, no doors.
And
put a dome on top.
I've heard.
Just forget about it and plug your ears when you hear yelling.
I've heard people argue for this, right, with Washington, D.C., specifically, also with L.A., Chicago as well, right? Separating from Illinois. I see many upsides to that. I wonder if it's possible. I mean, normally I would have said, if you asked me a couple years ago, will that ever happen? I would say absolutely not. That's crazy. But so many things that I would not have predicted happening have happened over the past couple of years. So it's got to the point where like, I don't know, maybe that is possible.
We got this story from CNN, ladies and gentlemen. They got him. George Santos charged by Justice Department and federal probe, and that's it. We have no information. They say it's sealed. We have no idea why they're charging him. So there you go. Spokespeople for the Brooklyn U.S. Attorney's Office declined to comment. It's a sealed indictment, and that's it. This is the guy who I guess they say lied about everything to get elected, and he was actually a drag queen or something.
One of the guys that lied about everything to get elected.
One of 435.
This is how they're going to get the House back. Just a series of sealed indictments.
They're going to start indicting everybody for fraud, being like, you lied to get elected. And then just stop.
Yeah, that's the job description.
Look, I'm pro Santos, man. That guy lied so much and then lied in such a spectacularly hilarious way.
But how do you know he lied?
Okay, well then I would be less pro Santos if he didn't lie. To be honest with you,
I guess
the deciding factor is the lies.
There's this picture of a drag queen in Brazil, and they're like, "That's him," and I'm like, "I don't know, that's him." Like it's a drag queen wearing a bunch of makeup and a costume. I mean, it might be. I don't know.
Whatever makes the story more hilarious, I'm for.
Yeah, this is the thing they do. It's like, if I go online, I can find a picture that looks like Phil, and then be like, "Here's Phil riding a giraffe in Africa or whatever," and people are gonna be like, "It does kind of look like him," and then all the other stories, they're like, "Is it true you didn't actually do this thing or that thing?" And I'm like, look, I don't know what he did or didn't lie about. I'm just saying, like, if someone says 20 years ago, if I came out, I was like, 20 years ago, I was riding my bike and I did a bar spin. And then you're like, that's a lie. Tim doesn't ride bikes. You know what I mean? Like, how do you know I didn't do it? How do you verify these things? You know what I mean?
That guy is supposed to be a Brazilian crossdresser?
Yeah.
Nah, they got pretty convincing lady boys over there. That guy wouldn't make the cut.
I don't know. They all claim that he was.
I looked up, I got the Snopes article to fact check it, and I'm not seeing a conclusive answer in the Snopes article.
Was Rep. George Santos a drag queen in Brazil? And they don't actually say.
They don't tell you. The one time we needed them most, they disappeared. Where's the fact check at the bottom? Tell us.
Look at this. They're claiming this is it. Like what?
There's a better picture of him alleged to be.
No.
Well, not in the Snopes article. Even Snopes couldn't confirm it. YouTube video.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Oh, let me see. New York.
Bet you he drinks Bud Light.
Maybe.
Speaking of pictures that look kind of like me, there's a kid that actually put up a picture of someone that he thought looked like me. He's like, this isn't Phil Labonte, but it made me remember how much I hate Phil Labonte. So you're right. There are plenty of pictures out there where will remind someone of someone else enough.
Or like Clint and Fred Durst.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the picture. They're saying performer Eula Rochards provided CNN with this image of a person she claims is George Santos.
I hope it's real.
I just don't think it's him.
That does not look like the fresh maker to me.
I don't know. I don't know, man.
I want to believe.
I mean, maybe, but the nose is different. He's got a round nose. This one's got, the nose is a little wider at the base. Maybe. I just don't believe it. Could you imagine? And look at the lips. His lips are way different. It's crazy. And he denies it. Strongly denied claims that he once performed it. The most recent obsession with the media claiming I'm a drag queen or performed as a drag queen is categorically false. And they just go with it. And then people just claim it's true. I just think it's nuts. You can't just take a picture of somebody and be like, that's him. And you're like, well, how do I know that?
So wait a minute. Is he being indicted for being a Brazilian crossdresser?
No, we don't know why he's being indicted. But people need to understand this too.
Going on?
Anybody who's ever seen a celebrity, walking down the street, you're like, is that him? I can't tell. Because when they're doing movies or doing TV shows, the angles are all different. One of the biggest tricks in media that confuses people is that cameras are typically held at like chest height, like right below your rib cage. And so this makes everybody look really tall. So when you're watching a TV show, men and women look tall because the perspective you have is looking up at them.
Yeah.
Then you meet them in real life and you're like, this dude's very short. Women especially, they film women from a low angle and it makes them look like they're tall. And then you meet them in real life and like, this lady's 5 foot tall. So that's what happens with a lot of these politicians too. You meet them and you be like, I didn't realize. So I don't know. Why do you like this guy, Phil? What about?
Just because he lied his way into Congress. That, for no other reason, just because
So you like every politician.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, I just don't understand how that
because
separates
he's
him.
He's so blatantly lied. Like, he told people that he was Jew-ish. He was telling people that he had like a grandmother that died in the Holocaust, and then he came back and said, "No, I never said that. I said that I'm Jewish. I'm kind of." And
That
all
was good.
sorts of
That was good.
All sorts of
Jewish.
really, really, really big whoppers, like absurd whoppers that make it all right.
So
you're really putting it on.
You got to
I
be a
back it.
Pocahontas fan then.
Yeah.
no.
Yeah,
Remember
gotta
when
love-
that lady claimed that Kavanaugh was gang raping women in college,
Yes.
and they all just run the story and they believe it?
And not only, well, with that story, not only did they not have evidence, the evidence actually pointed in the opposite direction. Like, there were people who were at the party where this supposedly occurred, saying that like didn't.
Well,
happen,
that was
or
the first
doesn't
story.
Line up.
The first story was when she claimed that he pinned her to a bed or
Yeah.
something and then rolled around. But like, even that story that she told, I'm like, so wait, she was at a party and she was upstairs and there were two guys, and he threw her on the bed and jumped on her, and then the other guy jumped on him and they rolled around laughing and giggling, and that's her like rape story. That was the story, I guess. He like jumped on the bed and the friend jumped on him.
I don't remember. I thought she accused him of something pretty serious,
No,
but
that
I
was it.
just remember that the evidence of the eyewitness testimony of people who were actually there at the event did not corroborate her story.
The first, so that was, I think that was Sweatnick or whatever. That was, first you had Christine Blasey Ford, and she was like, I was at a party, we went upstairs, he jumped on me on the bed and held me down, then his friend jumped on him and then knocked him over, and then they rolled around, and then I left. But none of the people at that party remember him being there, even her friend. She's like, I don't know what she's talking about, that never happened. And then she lied about everything. She's like, I'm scared to travel, and they're like, you've gone on vacation several times on planes. And she's like, oh. And she's like, I have to have 2 doors to my house because I'm so scared. And they're like, you Airbnb that one. Like, you're renting it out. It's just, none of it was true.
Well, yeah,
And then
'cause
it was the other woman who claimed at a party, Brett Kavanaugh would, and the boys would have gangbangs where they would kidnap a woman and lock her in a room and then line up outside the door and take turns.
Christ.
Like, these things don't happen.
No.
These people just make
I-
things up and then they believe it. That's modern politics for you.
Yeah.
And then the BBC is like, we believe it's true. And Tim Pool's wrong.
Do you think it's starting to happen where we don't believe it though? Because
Yeah, absolutely.
Because take the Trump story. Does it really feel like there's like momentum behind that story? Like you were saying that you're not even following it. You're on this show every day. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't. I feel like it's worn out. Like I like the whole wild claims thing.
That's why I'm saying, like, it's getting really hard to care, to be honest. Like, we're in free fall. There's no southern border. The economy is imploding. And then this stuff, I'm just kind of like, look, culturally, I think people have just said, shut your mouths to the psychopaths. They just shut up. Don't I hear it? And then what can you really do as the economy is crumbling? Get out of cities, you know?
It's the land of confusion. Isn't it wild how we're talking about some pretty heinous stuff, and some of it's like, I don't know if I really care. I don't know if I can follow along with all of it. I don't know how much of it I actually believe.
It's burnout, man.
And it's every
burnout.
single
Yeah.
day. It's several stories every single day that you would imagine are huge, but now it's just like, it's just too much. I don't know if I even care anymore.
I think
That's the collapse.
And
That's it.
And,
Yeah.
and they almost never pay any kind of price for lying, right? I mean, in the case of Sandman, he was able to sue him, and then they settled out of court. And I think some say that Rittenhouse has launched some lawsuits, and potentially he'll get some money out of them. But for the most part, they just lie constantly, and they basically never pay any price for it.
Deferred liability. It's like these articles and stuff like that. If you word it in such a way, well, it's actually even what Tucker was even saying. Like, you can say something that could hold up, a lawyer would sign off on it, but it's really misleading. It's not
Yes.
really pointing you
But
in the right direction.
He could have given a better example. It's like, if I said a guy was arrested, in charge of the crime, but unjustly, you might say, okay, that may be true. We don't know. But then if I were to omit that he was arrested 6 times previously for the same crime, now I'm misleading you. There's better examples. The example I like to give is quotes. They do this all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I like when they attributed Seamus's statement to Ian.
To Ian, yeah, Jezebel did that. They literally took a statement right from me. One of my greatest hits, a based and red-pilled quote about how horrible and stupid no-fault divorce is, and they gave it to Ian Crossland
But they do a
right
thing
before
where
my eyes.
here's a better way to explain how the media lies. Seamus will say, I once heard Phil Labonte claim that he prefers chocolate ice cream over strawberry. Or no, he said, Phil Labonte said to me, I like chocolate ice cream more than I like strawberry ice cream. They would then say, Seamus Coughlin said, quote, I like, because you did say those words, it is literally true, and if you sued, you wouldn't win. Because they'd be like, Seamus literally said those words, we quoted him. Even though the context was, it was someone else you were repeating.
Exactly. I mean, they're using their language to communicate a non-truth, which is lying, but you're right that in a literal sense, technically they can say he did
Factual,
say it, so.
but not truthful.
Magazines have been doing that. Like, there was this one, and I might have just heard this as an example, but it was like Michael Jackson and Faye Dunaway get married. They did, but not to each other.
That's great. Yeah.
Sold
That's
the
a
magazine.
good one.
It's all very
Wow, we
postmodern.
could use that.
Yeah.
So let's look for a celebrity who just got married. Let me see if I can do a quick Google search.
And then use Midjourney to put their pictures together.
Oh my goodness.
Who just celebrity weddings of 2023, 7 hours ago? Who got married? All right, so I got this article, and this one's gonna be fun. Sia got married. Okay, and also Luca. I don't know who those people are. So Sia, right? You know Sia, right?
Musician,
Sing
yeah,
from the
she's great.
swing from the chandelier. Let's just try and find Simone Biles. Well, there we go. Sia and Simone Biles have gotten married.
I like it. 2023.
You believe it? That Sia and Simone Biles got married.
Some mighty fine reporting there, Tim.
I try to be a white pillar, and I don't want to say that there's no consequences to them lying. You know what I think the consequences of them lying are? The success of this show. The success that Tucker Carlson is about to have outside of
Community
it.
notes.
Yeah. Like the success that Tucker Carlson's about to have outside of the system. The success of Joe Rogan and Patrick Bet-David and Dave Smith and all of this stuff. And I think the other cost is kind of the conversation that we're having right now. Like, yeah, I don't believe that rape story. Like,
Here we go.
Well,
Abigail Breslin and Buzz Aldrin got married. Like, those are factual statements, but I never said to each other.
So just to respond to what you're saying, I totally agree with that. And I think the fact that there's real competition is a massive white pill. My point about them not facing consequences is that there's no consequence from within their own structure. So they don't have any incentive to tell the truth in their own institution. But you're correct that if you look outside of the institution, there are very good reasons why they should start telling the truth about things if they want to be successful. But they're more interested in promoting their narrative than they are
and they're
actually being
completely
successful.
trapped within their dying model and their dying paradigm. Because, like, what was it, like maybe 6 months ago that CNN tried to do that?
CNN Plus, about a year ago now,
Yeah.
actually. Time flies. It was, I think it was a little over a year ago, right? That in CNN, it crashed and burned
Tanked.
like instantly.
Yeah.
It was so bad. I saw the
It's beautiful.
billboard in LA, and then it was just gone.
They had to sell it.
What that seems like to me is short-term gain over long-term gain.
Yeah.
Like these institutions,
preference.
they'll still use
Yeah.
these old tricks because there's short-term gain in it.
It worked on the boomers, but us wily Gen Xers and millennials,
Right.
Time preference. We love Hopper.
you need a better mousetrap there, propagandists.
So who did George Santos just marry then? You come
Yeah,
up-
we got to figure that out.
Well, they have to at least get married to somebody for me to claim they got married.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, so it is what it is. But Buzz Aldrin got married. So basically, anybody right now, guys listening, if anybody you know gets married, if you have like a friend named Sarah Smith, you can be like, Sarah Smith and Buzz Aldrin got married, and they'll be like, what? To Buzz Aldrin? And be like, huh? No, they got married, not to each other. You can just say those things now. That's how the media works. That's a good one, by the way.
It is.
That's a great one. Yeah, we should.
There's other examples like that you could just pair up. Like, these two things happened in the same year or on the same day, and you'd somehow merge them together.
Yeah, like we could say something like Tucker Carlson announces new show on Twitter shortly after Vladimir Putin places nuclear weapons in southern Belarus. It's like as if to imply they're related or something.
True story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, what do those things have to do with each other? Well, it's,
Well, you got to read the rest of the article.
Well, after Tucker heard about this, he said, I got to get back on the air and I got to talk about this, and there you go. I mean, that is the implication with Tucker and Elon, though. They had a meeting.
Yeah.
And after the meeting, he's like, hey, I'm doing a show on Twitter. And then Elon's like, we don't have a contract.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's the real inference,
How many interviews did Tucker do since he left? Because I knew he was just on Michael Knowles, right?
Did he do no?
No, I don't think he did any show.
I could have sworn I saw a piece with him on Michael Knowles' show. Maybe it was before the whole thing went down, but
Yeah, I don't know.
because he was
I'm
talking
looking
about
it up.
Building 7. Tucker was. And he was
Tucker,
saying how,
really?
like, you can talk about flat Earth because no one will believe you, but ask some questions about Building 7 and you'll get fired for that. That was on Michael Knowles.
Wow. I don't.
That's
I don't,
awesome.
I
Was
don't.
that
I
Knowles?
don't think so.
No?
I don't think Tucker did an interview with anybody yet.
Oh, you got deep faked.
No, because I mean I could be wrong, but my understanding was that he still works for Fox News. He is still a contracted employee of Fox News. So he's still. It's no different than when he had a show. They just took his show away.
Interesting. That's going to bug me.
Well, I don't know what are people saying in the chat? Did he?
They're saying it was Tulsi Gabbard. That's what
He did a
Raymond
show
said.
on Tulsi Gabbard. That would make sense. I mean, they're friends,
believe so.
right?
But I saw
Yeah.
Michael Knowles' face responding and reacting to what.
But maybe he's
Probably
playing a
clipped it.
clip and
Yeah.
then.
Yeah, he could have clipped that.
Yeah, okay, maybe.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
So Tucker appeared. She did a show with wait
I saw that on YouTube. I swear I saw that something the other day.
that she had Tucker Carlson on her show.
I think something like that. Yeah.
I don't know. No, I think people are wrong. This looks like old clips from Fox News she put on her channel.
Okay.
Yeah. No idea.
Yeah.
Tucker didn't do an interview with Michael Knowles. He did it with Tulsi Gabbard. But where did they do it? Because on Tulsi's channel, I don't see it. Is it here? What am I looking at? No.
I saw a clip from it, but I'm not sure where she
Right.
posted it.
That's what I saw too. I think.
No idea. I see stuff from like 2 or 3 weeks ago with Tucker. He was on Redacted. What is Redacted?
I think people are saying also he was on Nelk Boys too. Trump was on Nelk Boys a while ago as well. I think that might be right. I think it might be right. I think
Basically, Tucker was on every single show.
Yeah.
Just name a show, he was on it.
it's Schrodinger's Tucker Carlson. Yeah.
What's the? Oh, that's the Full Send podcast, right?
Yes, Nelk Boys is full send. By the way, the Trump one is pretty.
Oh
good.
yeah, it
I
looks
haven't
like
watched that.
Did they have Tucker Carlson? That was a month ago.
Yes.
Yeah, so these are old. Like
Yeah, no,
after the firing is the question. Did it happen? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
No idea. But I don't know, man. It's just it really is. Sometimes I wake up and this morning I see the story about the border is completely open, just gone, and I'm like, but it's been gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, do we really believe there was anything going on with the border?
But Tim, hold on. Have you considered that a nation fulfilling its primary definitional duty of protecting the border is mean?
One more time.
Have you considered that a nation fulfilling the most basic duty of a nation or government by protecting its border is mean?
It's very mean.
Yeah.
Come on, don't you know
It
anything?
triggers me.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you considered that you're bad?
The fact that the federal government has 3 like real jobs: provide courts for redress of grievance, protect the borders, and protect the rights of the citizens.
And stop misgendering.
I am shocked at this blue pilledness that you think that the stated purpose is actually the goal.
And they can't even protect the borders.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's intentional.
They used to.
Yeah.
Obama was deporter in chief. Remember back in the day.
But didn't they change the definition of deportation right before he took office to make
changed
it
it.
seem like he deported more than he actually did?
They've changed the definition of everything else.
Yeah, well, because I think it used to be you actually had to round someone up and send them out of the country for it to be considered a deportation. But then under Obama, what they said was people who were sent away, who came to the border and were sent
Right.
back, were counted as deportations.
Oh,
I
really?
see.
Yeah.
I see.
Sounds like something he'd do.
Yeah.
He also set up those concentration camps that AOC was so concerned about,
Those cages. Yeah.
but didn't care until Donald Trump became president.
Yeah. Most of the arguments that you see in politics are just fallacies created to attack their opponents, the political opponents, more so than anything of substance. Very rarely do you have politicians that are actually talking about things of substance, and that's something that Tucker Carlson talks about a lot. He'd made a remark that I think of the last video that he put up, that the most important things that you can talk about, like war, the economy, etc., those are things you're not really allowed to have any kind of dissenting opinion on. And if you do, then you get things like booted out of your job or whatever. And so, back to the fact that Tucker's going on to Twitter, I think, again, it reaffirms that, to me, this is a really good thing. You've got Elon Musk, who ostensibly is looking to have the most honest platform out there. I mean, Community Notes does it all the time. The Community Notes will tell you if an ad is BSing. You know, you can get a Community Note on advertisements. So even if you don't like Tucker Carlson, or even if you don't like Elon Musk, or Tucker Carlson being on Twitter with Community Notes means if Tucker Carlson lies or tells something that isn't true, it can be refuted with Community Notes. The left thinking that that's a bad thing, or the left not en masse trying to get onto Twitter to make sure that they're able to have a voice, it'll be a bad thing for the left if they don't come to Twitter and refute the things that Tucker says.
Right.
And as far as I'm concerned, fine, because generally I find myself agreeing with Tucker Carlson most of the time. And I have a significant, we'll call it distaste for the far left. But, you know, walk away and let us go ahead and have the floor and control the narrative. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah.
So there's one of the articles that we pulled up from the Free Beacon. Apparently people think that George Santos and Gretchen Whitmer are the same person. So that's one, you know. Yeah. George Santos in drag, George Santos, Gretchen Whitmer, they're all the same person.
Dude, listen.
Maybe she should be indicted.
Here's the thing. The deepfake thing is going to make this so much easier. A few years ago, there was a picture that went viral of Richard Dawkins and who's the one who played the girl in Harry Potter? Emma Watson? Is it Watson? Yeah. There's a picture that went viral of Richard Dawkins and Emma Watson side by side, where their faces look very, very similar. It looks like they're almost identical. But what someone actually did was slightly manipulated both of their faces so that they looked more similar to each other. But for a while, people were going, "Oh my gosh, Emma Watson and Richard Dawkins look so similar." That's going to be really easy to pull off with AI. People are going to start doing that and conflating a picture of one person with a picture of another person, or just generating completely fake images of people at like drag shows or whatever.
I'm going to get fact checked by Snopes. They're going to say, did Donald Trump run through D.C. with Sonic the Hedgehog? False. Tim Pool is fake news. You know, did Donald Trump team up with Sonic the Hedgehog? False. Tim Pool AI generated that picture. Sonic the Hedgehog is not real.
At some point, the only way people are going to be able to know something is real is if it came from your account, right? And even then, you could be lying.
Yeah.
That
Or someone could make a fake account that looks just like yours, and then they can buy verification or something.
That begs the question of, in the AI space, is there any kind of like corresponding growth in detection for what is AI? Because there's some real dark side to all of this stuff too.
Sure.
Like imagine, you know, you're married and then all of a sudden there's deep fake porn of you, quote unquote, cheating on your wife. You know what I mean? That could get real crazy real fast.
Or imagine a guy cheats on his wife, and then the wife finds video, and he's like, "Honey, that's a deep fake. That's not real."
It's going to be so easy to gaslight people as this AI stuff grows. Like, that ChatGPT made that.
But that's what I'm saying. Is there any kind of like corresponding technology where it's like this was AI generated? You know, and
I'm sure there will be
There's
AIs
stuff in
that
the
will. I
works.
think there might be AIs that will be able to tell you.
But I don't know, man. We're getting dangerously close to that point where you can make fake historical photographs that look real, you know, and slightly alter in such a way that you're like, people will think it's the real photo. So take a picture of Donald Trump doing something and then alter it in such a way that it's a little bit worse than it really was. Everybody eats it up.
And you were even saying that the scariest thing isn't going like hog wild on the deep fake. It's much more about changing one word.
Yeah.
Like slightly changing the context or making it sound like they used a derogatory term in the midst of a speech that they actually gave.
Because then everyone's going to be like, we know the speech happened, but which one's the real one? If you do a fake video of like Donald Trump punching a baby, no one believes it.
Yeah.
Donald Trump running with Sonic the Hedgehog in D.C., some people might fall for it.
I get that. Yeah, I believe that.
Yes,
I thought that was
Seamus
real
thought
at
it was
first,
real, and
yeah.
he was freaking out.
But that
He
so you
ran over
showed
to
me
and-
the one where they were shaking hands, and I was almost like that was real. But then I noticed Sonic wasn't wearing any gloves. And I was like, Sonic
You can see
always
his
wears
fingernails.
gloves. Yeah, I was like, that's fake. But that one did almost get me.
Yeah. But then someone's going to make a picture of Donald Trump yelling or something, and people will think it's real.
Or like you said, like changing a minor word here and there with the audio technology or the voice voice synthesizers.
The very fine people hoax.
Yeah.
They'll change him saying, and I'm not talking about the white nationalists or the neo-Nazis because they should be condemned totally. They'll change it to him saying, because some of them should be condemned totally, so that they can be like, I know this what you're talking about. I did hear it. And he said some of them. And you'll say, no, he said they. And then they'll play the clip and you'll be like, which one's the real one? And they both look identical. They both say CBS. And then they're going to be like, I know Trump is bad. He said some of them.
Yeah.
I know he did not come out and praise them. That's crazy. But he did say some of them because he thought some were okay.
Well, also, even with just the way they decide to parse out the grammar of it, when he said they're not sending their best, we've talked about this in the show before, they're not sending their best, they're sending their, what did he say, criminals, robbers, etc.,
yeah.
they're murderers, and then they're rapists, as in clearly they are sending their rapists, but they translate it
Possessive.
as they are
Yeah.
rapists.
And
And they
they
said,
are rapists.
Trump said Mexicans are rapists. Like, what? Do you think, like, yes, he gave a campaign speech and he's like, do you know what I think of all Mexicans? It's just the
Don't
most
vote for me.
ludicrous thing. Yeah, the most ludicrous thing in the world.
All right, we're going to go to Super Chat. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, share the show with your friends, become a member at timcast.com by clicking that Join Us button. We're going to have a members-only uncensored show coming up for you at 10:10 p.m. Eastern Time. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if you're a member, you can submit questions and even call into the show and talk to us and our guests. But now, we will slowly and calmly read your Super Chats. Drive-by commenter says, don't know if you guys discussed this, but researchers are able to use MRIs with generative AI to read people's thoughts with 82% accuracy.
What?
Put Seamus
Repeat
in
that.
there.
Repeat that.
We're going to put Seamus in that machine.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go on the mic. Seamus?
I think
Pop-Tart. And then they're going to be like, he's thinking about watermelons.
So wait a minute. It does what with 82% accuracy?
Reads your mind.
What?
Yeah,
These?
what kind of image you're
This is
thinking
going to
of or
save.
looking at.
This is going to save so many relationships. Where do you want to eat, honey? And then you just put the AI on her head, and it's like, oh, Denny's. Okay, I guess.
They're going to have to miniaturize MRIs so that way you can actually have it in the car or something like that.
It'll send a text to your phone of the image that she's thinking of.
Right.
It's scary to think that the intelligence applications of all of this stuff have probably been plotted out for years.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, they already know exactly how they're going to use this to screw us.
Yeah, the intelligence applications were the inspiration to start the research in the first place.
Oh yeah, all of this converges on sentient world simulation. Look it up.
God.
Oof. All right. What do we got
I will
here?
look that up.
I'm looking.
Grat Chet says, shout out to Chicken City, Buck Cluckers. The other night, I noticed the light was on, and I went out and looked, and some of the chickens were outside, like in the outer area, sleeping. And I'm like, why didn't they go inside? There's a little door that opens to the sun and then goes down at sunset. And the chickens, they go home. But these chickens, they didn't go home. Why? No idea. Anyway, where are we at? Tuma says to the guest, is there other branches of the caucus in other states?
Oh, yeah. So there's a 50-state apparatus. We have 250 state organizers and thousands of volunteers under us. And so if you were to go to takehumanaction.com and sign up, they would contact you and get you involved.
Well, right on. Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Tim, once the right stops giving an ish what the freak cult says or thinks about them, victory will come much faster. Let them ruin themselves. A wise beanie man once said, don't know, don't care. I do say that. I do say that. Soleil Cucumber Lime says, let's effing go MAGA 2024/7. /7. I think that picture of Trump shaking hands with Sonic the Hedgehog is the energy we need for 2024. I made that image because Seamus suggested a different image that Midjourney wouldn't let me make because it broke its rules.
No, dude, we made so many insane images over the weekend. Yeah.
And then Seamus suggested one, and I typed it in, and it said, "You are breaking the rules."
I don't remember which one. Well, yeah, remind me off air because I genuinely don't remember which one.
It's not something
was.
I can probably be appropriate for families.
Well,
Seamus had a dirty mind. He was like, "Do this one," and I was
no,
like,
I
started
said like,
laughing. I'm
well,
okay, and then it was like,
one, no, we did. You did pregnant Donald Trump, and then I was like, hey, so he did pregnant Trump, and he had a pregnant Trump, and I was like,
that was Chris. Chris
I was
did that
like,
one.
I was like, do pregnant Trump, and like Sonic is the dad standing next to him, or something like that. And it was, I don't remember the
Sonic is the dad.
Is that the one?
I tried. No, that one worked, and all it did was make a picture of Trump as Sonic.
That's right. Yes.
Chris searched for pregnant Trump, and it made it.
It could happen now.
And then I did morbidly obese Joe Biden, 700 feet tall, crushing New York City, and it made it. And it was this big, massive Joe Biden just crushing buildings.
There was no reason for our minds to have access to this technology. Like we were coming up with some absurd nonsense.
I'll mention in the members only exactly what Seamus suggested I do, and it told me it broke the rules.
I don't even remember what it was.
And then what we're going to talk about for the members only is we have this leftist anti-police protester was going to an anti-police protest and was killed. I think that's what the story was. She died in a robbery or something like that. It's a tragic story, but it's like, we got to address why probably shouldn't get rid of the police. Like maybe reform and stuff like that. But we'll mention in the members only exactly what Seamus recommended I search for and why it didn't work. All right, Dave says, Mike, can you speak to what's happening in Michigan's Libertarian Party? The fraudulent board continues to raise funds and purport to be legitimate despite the LNC's statement to the contrary.
God, this is getting into inside baseball. But to set the table, it seems to me that the effect that politics has on the human condition exists everywhere. And so there were some people who were extremely, extremely angry and upset that we took the Libertarian Party over to the point where they were willing to sabotage the party or their state parties on the way out. And long story short, without getting all the boring details, the Libertarian Party of Michigan held a convention that was against its rules to try to displace our leadership, and then continued on with that, proclaimed to replace the leadership, didn't. And then their judicial committee, which is like the court system of the party, ruled that that was not accurate, that was all invalid. They broke the rules, restored the old board, and there is now a dispute between these two boards. That is the I don't want to bore everybody short version.
Andrew Rowland says, I would like to see Twitter add a video platform to compete with YouTube and Rumble. Depending on how the ad revenue will go, could potentially move a lot of people from YouTube to Twitter. I completely agree. I really do want to see them create a proper video component to Twitter, because I've got 1.6 million followers, and I would put my videos up on Twitter. You could do it right now. It just doesn't work that well because of the way the feed works. You need to be able to have a recommended videos thing or something like that, or people need to start building the habits of going to their video feed on Twitter, which means Twitter needs to make a video feed section. Eric Miller says, cast brew coffee names, Hen House Blend, and you should do a keto creamer called Shamer.
Nice.
Or is it Shemer?
No, Shamer, because that's my podcast, bro. He's trying to shout me out.
Big League Drew says, Tim, if you disagree with me, you're in a cult pool. Quite the opposite, good sir. My point was, if you went to the public and the public held a worldview that you did not, it was you who was the odd person out, not the public. These leftists are all about making the world bend for them instead of them adapting to the world. It's the peak of hubris to be like, everyone else should change to accommodate my demands. You can't. It's impossible. Is everyone gonna bend to the whims of literally every other person? It makes no sense. We just try our hardest. BPay says 1.5 million subs times $5 is $7.5 million per month without being exclusive to the platform. Elon also said they wouldn't be taking $10 for the first year. How many followers does Tucker Carlson have?
Good question.
He's
Probably
got 7 million. Tucker Carlson has 7 million followers. I imagine he'll be making a couple $1 million per month, not 7.5, but maybe like 2. Because conversion matters, and he should charge more than $5. Hosting and stuff is expensive, and we want Tucker to succeed. So, but maybe 5 works for his show considering volume. Volume matters. If you've got 100 followers and you want to make a living off of your platform, you need those 100 followers to give you maybe $20 or $30 a month so that you can break even and do some kind of show. If you have 1,000 followers, now you only need $10 per person, $5. The more followers you have, the cheaper it becomes all in all. Unless you're trying to build a big network, and then you've got to pay for all the bandwidth and hosting, and it becomes more expensive the more followers you get. But for Tucker doing one show, I bet if he charged $5, he'd make like $2 million per month.
For sure.
Bro Cody says, Tim, did you hear about the social worker who was axe murdered in Vermont? The idea that social workers are equipped to handle the mentally ill running around is a liberal fantasy. I agree. Omega Resetsu says, Tim, I cringe every time you say economic right and left. Economics falls in the authoritarian libertarian axis, not left right, bottom up versus top down. Completely wrong. You are wrong, sir. Wrong. So on the libertarian spectrum, you can have anarcho-communist and anarcho-capitalist. And people who don't understand the spectrum might say, how can communists be anarchists? 7 people living on a farm who don't use money for any exchange and have an expectation amongst each other as a community on what work is to be done and how. So it's quite literally someone's like, hey, I grew some squash. Would you like to share it with me? I'm going to give my squash to you. And then the other hippie goes, and I did the dishes so that we can have clean plates when we eat our squash. That's not capital. That is communal labor. Works really, really well for small groups and tribes. Does not scale. Then you move to the right and you get laissez-faire capitalism, where the guy walks up to the other guy and says, I got squash. If you want it, it's $1 a piece. That dollar is a universal trade medium that I use. Then they can reinvest that dollar into, hiring someone, help them grow more squash, et cetera, et cetera. In the communal side, if you start going towards the authoritarian spectrum, you get Stalin, where he walks up to you, puts a gun in your mouth and says, you are giving me your squash because we're going to share it with everybody. Now, strangely, how it works with the authoritarian right doesn't quite make sense because they don't necessarily have capitalist systems, but there is still an argument to be made for what we associate with the authoritarian right being ultra traditionalist. And then, to your point, there is a confliction between what we would determine to be the authoritarian right. It's the odd group out in the entirety of the political compass. However, it's typically because Nazis did use capital systems. They were quote unquote socialists, but they used capital exchange, kind of like the Chinese communists do. There's a lot to go through, and it's a lot more complicated than that, but that's a simple version. I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
Well, basically, what you're describing what the Nazis did was corporatism, and that's what we have today. Right. It's kind of the best of both worlds between communism and capitalism, where you still have some semblance of private ownership. You still have a price system, and the price system is probably the most important.
But that's not communism then. It's just authoritarianism.
Right. It's authoritarianism, but it's not communism in the sense that it's not complete government ownership and control, but it's government management through policy, through regulation, and they basically pick the corporate overlords who then write the policy and tip everything, and so you're off of a free market system.
The issue is that people think communism, and the only examples that exist in history are authoritarian statist communism. So they associate authoritarian overt control and communism as one thing. Whereas you can have 10, there are communes in the United States where it's like 100 people on a farm, and they all just do a base piece of labor and then share, and they vote people in, they vote people out. They exist. They just don't scale up because you can't have a guy from, 2 towns over coming over to me and being like, okay, now I get your fruit and you get my wood. And they're like, I don't need that. There needs to be some kind of way to do an exchange.
And it begs the question of what exactly is economics. Like the school of thought that I'm from, the Austrian school, would say that economics is basically just the observance of subjective value judgments in the marketplace when weighed against like real world things like scarcity. So in that sense, action that is economized of all types is technically economic. It's economic activity, right. And money actually observed historically as a social phenomenon to solve the problem that you're talking about. It's called in economic theory. It's called the double coincidence of wants. The whole you have an axe, I have eggs. We can't trade, so I have to go to some intermediary to trade my eggs to get your axe. And that is how gold and silver became money in the organic sense. Like it wasn't a government that dictated that these things are money. They were just a commonly valued commodity that over time became money. And so that problem was overcome by money, and then emerged the price system.
Mm-hmm. Kim Lalajo in the general chat says, that is not communism, Tim. Communism is Marxism. You're talking about hippie communes. I think you exemplified perfectly my point. If we are talking about the basic economic structure, then yes, I am defining communism, and you are defining a specific historical example of one guy's writing, which is not the general concept. So there's a bunch of different kinds of capitalism, right? There's capitalism like to varying degrees. When you move left and right on the political compass, you get varying degrees of regulation versus freedom, laissez-faire capitalism. But there's an upward motion as well. So like in the middle, you have a basic thing, like the libertarian middle would kind of be like, we live on a farm, we all agree there's a chore rotation. However, if somebody wants a specific task done, then we trade for it. If you go all the way to the hippie commune left, everyone's just like, we agree you can use whatever you want. I don't think that scales properly. If you go all the way to the right, then everyone's just trading and exchanging value, which tends to work very, very well in the long run. That doesn't mean that all forms of communal living are authoritarian, because there are communes in the United States. There's one example I was reading about. 100 people live there. 100 people. And it is a commune. and they have like a board that votes on when people can come in and go out, and they all agree the system works and they all get along. But it's usually like people come and live there for a year or two and then leave. So, but see, what happens is people read about history, and there's one historical example of communism because it never works at scale, and it's statist authoritarianism. But don't confuse an authoritarian system with the economic concept of communal function, like communal economics. All right, where are we at? Yes Man says, has anyone ever been far enough as decided to use even go want to do more to do look more like? There's an old meme.
I wonder, yeah.
It's an old meme, but it checks out.
Yep.
Rudy Cassone says Tucker was a traditional libertarian. That's why he backed Ron Paul back in the day. You're probably too young to remember that. I knew that he was a traditional libertarian. Okay, he's talked about it, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, I think he was associated with Cato at one point, but they're the dark side of the libertarian.
Phil Dude Bro says, so whose nickname is the Hedgehog and who is going to do battle with? Hint, his name is also Ron. What would Trump call Sonic the Hedgehog if he was debating him?
Oh, well, how would he insult him?
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually a really tough one.
He's the person is making a reference to a porn star.
Oh.
Ron Jeremy his nickname is the Hedgehog.
Oh.
Nice.
He's going to jail, isn't he?
I believe so.
Immortal Legend says, pertaining to Keith Olbermann, it must suck to be a propagandist and be terrible at that job. Bro, you had one job. That dude's very unwell.
He is absolutely hysterical about, like, when he tweets and stuff. It's not reasonable and chill. It is just spazzing out.
Yeah. It's kind of wild to watch.
Yeah.
Kane Abel says, Tim, they really do hate you. I would not be surprised if you were on the FBI's top 10 list of enemies of the state. Well, I guess we know what happened when you do not show up for work. I don't know about that. I don't think they hate me. I think they half like the show.
No, they hate you.
They fear you.
They hate you.
I think they really don't like Seamus.
No one at school likes you. They all hate you.
Well, you know, like the FBI came over and they were like, hey, we're cool, dude. It's just Seamus, man. You brought him back. And I was like, are
you serious?
Yeah.
Did you
And
stand
then the
up for me?
CIA showed up.
Did you
And then
stand
they
up for
were
me?
like, oh, the FBI's here. And then they were like, yeah, we're here too. And the CIA guy goes like, it's Seamus, isn't it? Like, yeah, we're here. You're here for Seamus
No.
too?
First of all, they're not
CIA
friends.
guys.
I know this story isn't true because they don't like each other.
They don't like each other. But
Yeah.
they're both like, you don't like Seamus either. And it's like, well, we have that in common, I
Yeah,
guess.
that's fair. Honestly, that happens.
Has
Yeah.
the
Then the
Southern
Department of Energy showed up and they were like,
Oh, they really don't like me.
right.
Yeah.
has
yeah.
the Southern Poverty Law Center declared you a hate leader yet?
they claimed that, what did they say? That I was, I spoke in Iran at a Holocaust deniers conference because they found an archive of an Iranian website.
That's a deep fake of you I want. That's an
It was
AI generated image I
craziest
want.
thing ever to see the Southern Poverty
To
Law
an
Center.
Iranian
Right,
Holocaust
that I was a speaker at a Holocaust deniers conference in Iran, and I was just like,
so wild.
What? what?
Such a wild claim.
That's, yeah, and they had to delete it and then apologize. That was hilarious because it's like,
But did you?
I have never been to Iran.
I am
Okay.
proudly featured in their Hate Watch series.
Oh wow.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Luke,
yeah.
they featured Luke Rutkowski a while back.
Did they?
Makes sense.
Yeah,
I haven't gotten my wings yet, boys.
you haven't got your wings, and even Media Matters ignored you.
No, well, sort of. Media Matters published an article based on my very naughty words, and by naughty words I mean saying marriage is between a man and a woman, and gay marriage doesn't exist. It's an incoherent concept, and they titled it Timcast podcast panelists fight marriage equality to make, and the picture was of you.
Yep.
And so people were sharing it going, this is why I knew not to trust Tim Pool. He's against gay marriage and blah, blah, blah. I was like, I was the one who said it. Right, I was the one who said
never
it.
getting
They're
credit.
making it sound. I know it's
And then
unfair. In the article, they give me credit though.
When
to be
Media
fair.
Matters wrote the list of Timcast guests, they omit
yeah, they
you.
left me out. They omitted me,
But it was funny because
and I was like, I'm worse than all these people.
but you are. That's the point.
That's actually really funny. I remember a while ago there was also this analysis that was done infamously on YouTube and how it radicalizes people, and they had a bunch of conservative channels on there, and they put me as like center right towards moderate, and they took some of my friends who were like libertarians, like Lou Perez from We Are the Internet, and put them in the far right category. I was like, wait a minute, they're far right and I'm like center right.
Ridiculous.
But the thing is, it's because they have no way to distinguish between the different gradients that exist in conservatism, because to them politics is a binary. You're either on my side or you're a Nazi, and then all these people are Nazis.
I've only gotten a couple like pokes from like the left, like Media Matters and stuff like that, and they always they never mention like the band. They call me right wing guy and stuff, but they never say the guy from All That Remains, or whatever. They don't want
your music.
Yeah, they don't want people to know that I'm anything other than a guy that talks on the radio.
You're insulated. You declared very early on that you will not give in to fascist beliefs.
In 2006, I am so ahead of the curve that I was saying fascism sucks before the commies were saying fascism sucks. Before the Zoomer commies. Not,
Let's read. The Southern Yankee says, Tim, get Mark Dice on the show. Mark Dice has an open invite. I have talked to him many times. He's a good dude, big fan. So he can come on whenever he can. That'd be great. It'd be great to have him on the Culture War show too. We also have, we're working on a big project, which is going to be really awesome with the Culture War show, expanding it. And I'm really excited for that, but we'll give you more details later on. Rudy Cassone says, the ancient Romans were unaware of the lead affecting their brains from their wine jars. Today, chemicals in our food, cleaning products, etc., are affecting many people's ability to reason.
True. And
I actually think it's making the freaking kids trans because the endocrine disruptors and the plastics and all that are affecting fetal development.
I don't care what was in the Roman water. Marcus Aurelius had his shit together.
Yeah, true.
He was based.
Yeah.
He's a very based guy.
I'm reading his what is
Meditations.
it called? Meditations.
I just I ordered a leather-bound copy of that, and I think they had to actually make it in India because it took me like 2 months to get from Amazon.
Oh, sweet ass.
Phenomenon says, E. Jean Carroll is the same woman who went on Anderson Cooper and literally said that she thinks rape is, I'm not going to read the quote, but she thinks rape is sexy. What she actually said was, she said that most people think it is sexy. She didn't say that she did. If that distinction matters to you, I don't know. That's the quote slightly off. Mo Harris says they took our jobs. They did.
Classic.
Zane Thomas says, read Reynolds v. Sims, 1964, to understand how the blue cities gained control of the red counties. Well, interesting.
What was that again?
Reynolds v. Sims, 1964. Okay. To learn how blue cities gained control of red counties.
Yeah, I'm going to look that up.
Larry Stout says, article in The Hill has Biden wanting to use the 14th Amendment for the budget problem. Well, okay. Some people are saying that is unconstitutional. Crazy. Roger Page says, Tim Pool and Brian Stelter had meetings I was not allowed to partake in. I don't know what that means. I've never had a meeting with Brian Stelter. What is that a reference to? Is it a joke I'm missing?
I think so.
Oh.
Well, funny
didn't
if
get
you
it.
had a meeting with him, though. That'd be hilarious.
Yep. And YouTube just gave us the jump. Rick E says, Trump Hedgehog 2024. Yes.
If he's
that his last
smart,
name? The Hedgehog?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe it's Sonic, and his middle name is and then his last name is Hedgehog. And if Trump is smart, that's who he's going to select as his running mate.
Oh man.
Can you
Late, quite frankly, what am I? I'm selecting Sonic. Some people were saying I was going to pick him. I won't name names, but
It's a race.
some say it's a race. You have to go. Some say you have to go fast.
He's the
in a
fastest.
race.
I might be
Yeah,
faster.
If you want to
he's
win
gonna-
the race.
But he would have to. It would have to be an arc where he starts by just relentlessly trashing Sonic through the primaries, like little blue Sonic, just ripping him apart, and
Little
then
baby
it turns-
blue.
yeah, little baby blue Sonic runs from all his problems, and then eventually it'd be like, I like him because he won't get caught. I like him because he couldn't get caught. He's too fast. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he'll do. Jessica Cox has been a supporter since day one. Michael is wearing my boyfriend's band shirt, The Contortionist. Tell Michael
nice.
Joey B says hi and thanks for the support.
Yeah, they're fans of the show, man.
Cool.
Yeah, they're great guys.
Sweet. Sounds awesome. Crentis the Dentist says, what do you think of Bitcoin? Should we trust in a currency even though it's not backed by any assist or physically commodities?
Assets.
Yeah, I know, but it says assist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I just read them as they
I
type them.
didn't see that.
By the way, I love the reference in the name, Crentis the Dentist. Good Office reference.
Oh, I don't know.
Remember when Dwight's trying to take the day off and he's clearly lying?
Never seen it.
He's like, I'm going to the dentist. And then Michael's like, what's his name? He's like, Crentist.
I've never seen the others.
Oh my gosh, you've never seen a single episode?
No.
Wow.
No, not one.
You have to. It's
No.
funny. You're an animal. You're uncultured and you want to stay uncultured, and that's fine. That's fine. I'll
Yep.
let you live that life.
Zermis Playground says, hey, Tim, for poker with the boys, you should set up a fake mustache vending machine outside the door. It could be priced at $1 a piece, but give back 23 cents change. Would be a hilarious gag. I can't wait for Infringed.
Wait, we
Yeah,
skipped Bitcoin.
The problem with the... Oh, yeah. We were going to ask about, what do you think about Bitcoin? I love Bitcoin. I got a bunch. There you go.
It's-
Should have bought a bunch more.
They say that it's not, or that he was asking it's not backed up by anything, and it's not backed up by what you normally think of, but there was energy in the form of electricity, and there was value in that electricity that was put into it. So there is a certain amount of value instilled into it.
Right.
Yeah.
The energy required to make a Bitcoin guarantees the price of Bitcoin.
I'm gonna be a stickler. It's not backed by a certain amount of value. It's backed by a certain amount of utility, because the value is still subjective. And basically what it is it can, the blockchain itself serving as a ledger of account
It's infrastructure.
gives it a unique quality of money that no other money has ever had. Where you can trust it to that extent, because you can't hack Bitcoin.
But all money is do people have confidence it can be used for exchange?
Yep.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
The value of Bitcoin isn't actually in the coins; it's in the network.
Yeah.
The
Correct,
infrastructure.
in the security and
The ability to transfer
That's easy to use,
value
etc.
over the
So-
Someone in chat said Bitcoin is backed by math, and I misread that as meth for a second, and I was imagining, what if
Well,
that,
maybe.
what if there is a meth standard implemented at some point?
That's true. As for poker with the boys, the
Vice
problem
Sudafed.
is poker is illegal in West Virginia, which makes no sense. But Pokemon and Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh are also illegal, and I'm not exaggerating nor being cute.
Yu-Gi-Oh, like Pokemon is?
It's illegal. The law
Based?
explicitly states you can't host any card game and you cannot play any card game. It doesn't say you can't gamble or wager money. It literally says you can't play card games. The thing is, the law was likely written before card games were invented. And so the only card games that existed were card decks with 52 cards, the standard poker decks. And so the law was written vaguely. Then Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Emerge, and now we have a constitutional problem where the state allows children to wager on games of chance. Now, I know Magic the Gathering, Pokemon have skill in deck building and strategy and play, but the law says you can't play card games, period. Then when a child gives money to the owner to enter a competition in which chance plays a role, because there's another important factor. The law in West Virginia does not say to what degree chance. It says just chance, any. So a game where you draw cards and there's a random chance at getting good cards or energy or whatever you need, that is a game of chance. Outside of all of that, I kid you not, look up the laws in West Virginia. It says card games are illegal. And when I went and talked to the government, they were like, yeah, card games are illegal. And I'm like, there's Pokemon and Magic the Gathering all over the state. So how do you control for one but not the other? And I think I was talking to a state senator and I said, I guess the end result is either they will ban Pokemon or legalize poker. Because it can't both be the same thing.
Yeah, inconsistent.
Because it just says card game. It doesn't matter how much chance is involved. I want to stress that point. All right, everybody, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, become a member at timcast.com. By clicking that join us button, we're going to have a members only uncensored show coming up for you in about 10 minutes when we go live on the front page of Timcast. So definitely sign up. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL, basically everywhere. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Michael, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you agree with what I'm saying as far as the decentralization and nullification strategy, this is what the Libertarian Party is doing. You can go to lp.org/join. You do not have to change your registration to become a member of the party. You could just throw us some support. And if you want to support the Mises Caucus, go to takehumanaction.com and keep the revolution alive.
Yeah, I think I'll actually just give a shout out to Robert Breedlove, who has the What is Money podcast, because a lot of what we were just talking about with Bitcoin and what is money, what are economics, he gets into that pretty deeply.
I actually want to shout out Ben here, because in the time before Clown World, when YouTube didn't suck, and there was a lot of independent documentaries, Ben was one of the early pioneers producing content that was red-pilling people on a deep level with his documentaries, The Esoteric Agenda, Chimatica, and Ungrip, and that didn't get mentioned. So those documentaries are still out there, and they're still good stuff, man.
And we got one that's just about ready to come out.
Game of Money.
Game of Money. Yeah. And it's perfect timing, too, considering all the banks are collapsing.
Yeah.
So Ben's actually here so we can figure out the proper distribution. With Infringed, we might do a premiere, which means it might actually take a month. We're trying to get clearance on certain clips we want to use. So the lawyer's got to go through it. But then the opportunity there is like, okay, well, if we're waiting, why don't we get a theater and then do like an actual premiere of the documentary? which would be cool.
would
So
be
we'll
awesome.
see. Yeah. Seamus.
My name's Seamus Coughlin. What I want to shout out is the novena that we're praying to St. Joseph for the working class in this tumultuous economy, for the unborn, for our enemies, including the people at Vice, many of whom may be out of work, and Dylan Mulvaney, these people who are very confused that they may see the light and that our country will return to God. So if you go over to my Twitter, that novena, I just retweeted it. We'll be praying it tonight. Please join us.
I am Phil Labonte from the band All That Remains. Phil That Remains on Twitter, Phil That Remains Official on Instagram, and the band is All That Remains on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, etc., etc.
And I am Serge.com everywhere, SoundCloud, Instagram, Twitter, etc. Follow me. Let's argue.
We will see all of you over at timcast.com in a few minutes. Thanks for hanging out.